On the night of the blind date, the billionaire forced her. Blind date night, Qing fell into her mother's trap. To solve her urgent crisis, her gaze locked onto the man in the pool. Help me. What do I get in return? Xunhuan's cold eyes studied her. I will compensate you. For the sake of that face, she endured it. Xunhuan's wolf-like eyes narrowed dangerously. A lamb delivering itself to the wolf, how could he resist? I want you. Before he could finish speaking, his beastly instincts took over. Chapter 1, Lustful Intentions. The pool water rippled as Qing clung to Xunhuan's neck, her full chest pressing tightly against him. Help me. Her voice was hoarse beyond reason. Xunhuan's warm palm brushed through her wet hair, his wolf-like eyes burning intensely. Droplets of water clung to her eyelashes, her cat-like eyes half closed, making her look like an enchanting siren from the depths of the sea. The man's gaze remained cool, his voice dangerously seductive. If I help you, what do I get in return? I will compensate you. Her eyes were soft and alluring as her small hand slid downward. Her scorching lips traced along his firm muscles, and the man tensed instantly. With a swift tug, Xunhuan pulled at her water-soaked white shirt. The sight of her exposed skin ignited the dangerous glint in his eyes. I want you to pay with your body. Xunhuan gripped the back of her head, claiming her lips with primal hunger. The unique scent of faint smoky wood filled her mouth, making Qing unable to resist. The sky wasn't completely dark yet, but the impatient moon already hung low on the horizon. Qing's mind went blank, the only sound was the rhythmic splashing of water. As she followed his wild rhythm, the waves crashed through her body, surging straight to her mind. Qing shook her head, reaching out to push his strong waist away from her body. Xunhuan grabbed her restless hands, his movements growing even fiercer. You can't take it already? We've just started. Please let me go. Her voice wavered between the splashes, carrying a hint of helplessness. Not a chance. Ignoring her weak resistance, Xunhuan continued his rough advances. Seeing her brows furrow and fingers curl, he felt an even stronger urge to torment her. The water swirled, laced with traces of ambiguous foam. Qing felt like she had died several times, her nails digging into the man's muscles. Xunhuan stared at her pale lips, a flicker of shock flashing through his eyes. She was a virgin. Sorry. He held her close, lifting her legs around his waist as he whispered against her ear. But despite his words, he nearly took her life. Qing regained consciousness only to find herself on a hotel bed. The man had tormented her the entire night like two insatiable leopards. She felt like she was falling apart, her body aching all over. Sensing a searing, unreadable gaze beside her, Qing sat up abruptly. Xunhuan openly scrutinized her bare body without the slightest restraint. Her long hair draped over her chest, shielding most of her exposed skin. Her neck, white as milk, was marked with pinkish hues, traces left by him. His Adam's apple bobbed slightly, his narrowed eyes full of roguish intent. The dim lighting in the room cast shadows on his sculpted, shirtless body. His gaze was dangerous, resembling a beast lying in wait. His defined abs trailed down to a unique totem tattoo, disappearing beneath his black pants. TSK deadly sexy. Yesterday, she was supposed to be on a blind date with Cheng's top billionaire, Lu Tanlang. Before leaving home, she drank a cup of something her mother gave her, and by the time she reached the hotel, her body was burning unbearably. As a doctor, she knew exactly what was happening to her. Desperate to cool down, she stumbled into his private pool by mistake. Xunhuan had an insanely desirable physique, yet his face exuded an icy, untouchable aura. Especially the faint mole at the corner of his right eye, it made his gaze even colder, adding a layer of mystery. She had to admit that she chose him because of his god-tier looks. Their eyes locked. Feeling awkward, Qing broke the silence first. Thank you for last night. That's it. The man lit a cigarette in front of her, his attitude arrogant. It was her first time experiencing something like this, and judging by his demeanor, he didn't seem easy to deal with. Her heart skipped a beat. Right, I promise to compensate you. She quickly added. Fine. Xunhuan's dark eyes gleamed with untamed mischief. Qing's chest tightened. She had no money. Xunhuan gazed at her lazily, fully aware that last night, she was supposed to offer herself to his so-called elder brother to bear his child for money. If Lu Tanlang found out that he had taken this untouched canvas first, he would be absolutely furious. Jiang Qing had no idea who this man really was, but she had a feeling he wasn't lacking her measly compensation. However, she was indeed strapped for cash. Her comatose younger brother was still in the hospital, waiting for medical fees. She tried to negotiate. "Sir, I was also a victim here and it was my first time." "So, you're saying I didn't lose out either?" Lu Xunhuan sneered. Jiang Qing shook her head, though in her heart, she was thinking, what more do you want? "Miss, you threw yourself at me out of lust, and now you're claiming to be a victim." Their words, "out of lust," seemed to be emphasized, making them sound even harsher. He wasn't wrong. Jiang Qing swallowed, explaining, "I think you could tell I was set up." Lu Xunhuan's eyes darkened. "Tell? What makes you think I should have noticed?" He stubbed out his cigarette, suddenly leaning in, his gaze ice cold. "All I know is that you were willing to sell yourself for money to bear a married man's child." Jiang Qing's pupils shrank, her ears ringing. "What did you say?" "I said," the man's gaze was fierce, his tone cruel, a wicked smirk playing at his lips, "what difference does it make whose child you bear, Chapter 2, How About Being With Me? Jiang Qing suddenly realized. No wonder her mother said that as long as she meets with Haicheng's top billionaire, Lu Tanlang, just for a quick introduction, he'd give her 100,000 yuan. She initially thought it would be a formality, and she could just give her mother the 100,000 yuan savings afterward. But now, it seems the real deal was for her to have a child with this nearly 60-year-old man. If it weren't for her mother's stress disorder, which could trigger at any moment, she wouldn't have gotten involved in such a situation. What a sin! Lu Xunhuan noticed her silence and pressed on, "Don't think about it, I have plenty of money." Jiang Qing was humiliated by his words and nearly slapped him in the face. He wants to be the patron and start a harem. Does he think money can get him anything? "Slander is illegal," Jiang Qing said with a grim expression. Lu Xunhuan went straight to the point, "Will you do it? Name your price." Jiang Qing took a deep breath, and a surge of fire ignited in her chest. In that flame, she saw the car accident 4 years ago. Her father passed away, her brother became a vegetable, and her mother, mentally unstable, developed stress disorder, which made her suicidal whenever it flared up. Not wanting to lose any more loved ones, Jiang Qing tried to fulfill whatever her mother asked for. After agreeing to the arranged marriage, Song Li told her, "Your brother needs money for treatment. If you marry a rich man, we can live worry-free for the rest of our lives." Reality hit her hard. She stared at the man in front of her, wanting to be her sugar daddy. She spoke sharply, "How much can you give me? How much do you want?" "Enough for me to live the rest of my life without worries." The air thickened. The man's towering figure blocked much of the dim, seductive light. He walked up to her, raised his hand, gently brushed his fingers over her pale lips, then slid down her long neck, settling on her collarbone. A delicate pink blush spread, sending a chill down her spine. "All right. As long as you obey, I can give you more money than you could ever spend in several lifetimes." After he spoke, he suddenly locked his hand around her neck. He didn't apply force, but it was enough to imprison her. For a moment, Jiang Qing felt as if she was going to be choked to death. "Are you very rich?" Jiang Qing widened her eyes, fighting back the fear, trying to sound brave as she asked him. This man was no ordinary person, and she had a strong gut feeling about it. "You think so?" The man's eyes slanted upwards, arrogant and domineering. Lu Xunhuan was one of the 2 big demons in Haicheng, with him ranking first. When he went mad, he wouldn't care about anyone. He had planned to expose his elder brother's affairs with women last night, but when he saw Jiang Qing, he suddenly changed tactics and enjoyed the moment. But one night was not enough. "Not my problem. If you want to be a sugar daddy, find someone else." Jiang Qing forcefully pulled his hand away and spoke coldly, having no time to play his games. She grabbed her coat and headed for the door. Lu Xunhuan looked at Jiang Qing's retreating figure, his gaze darkening. The little woman had a slim waist, a soft figure, and swayed gracefully. Especially her long legs, which at that moment were enough to stir his heart. His wolfish eyes narrowed sharply, and he spoke nonchalantly, "Was it worth it?" Jiang Qing paused for a moment, clenching her fist involuntarily. Her patience had reached its limit. Turning around, her face slightly pale, she met his gaze with cold eyes. Xunhuan noticed the change in her expression and felt a hint of excitement. Jiang cursed in her mind, crazy. She rarely lost control of her emotions, always maintaining calmness in her dealings. But this time, she was on the verge of snapping. She stared at him seriously, her eyes chilling with anger. "Sir, please show some respect." "What's wrong? Just following me isn't showing respect." Jiang's expression was stern. "I won't sell my soul for money." Xunhuan suddenly laughed, extending a long finger and gently waving it in front of her eyes. "I only need your body." Chapter 3, Throwing money at her. Xunhuan's expression was cruel and crazy, making people love and fear him at the same time. Jiang subconsciously wanted to open the door and go out. But the man pressed the door first, blocking her way. He almost held her in his arms, looking down at her. "If you do it again, it'll be all written off." She looked up at him, and they were so close that her heart was beating incredibly fast. After last night, Jiang has already tasted the sweetness, and this beauty's eyes are so sexy that it's hard to control herself. Really? She made up her mind and wanted to get rid of him as soon as possible in this way. The man's eyebrows and eyes were as sharp as knives, and he looked very fierce in the dim light. He knew what she meant and wanted to get away from him quickly. He wanted to make her unable to stop. Xunhuan rudely held her hands behind her back. Hiss! Jiang felt pain and turned around unexpectedly. The clothes on her chest were ripped open by him mercilessly, and the buttons were scattered all over the floor. A cold voice came from behind my ear, with a strong temptation. "This is more exciting." Her body trembled slightly, and a faint blush appeared on her snow-white body. She was extremely shy in her heart, but on the surface she was pretending. Her true reaction could not deceive anyone. He held her whole body in his arms. She was as soft and warm as jade, which aroused all his desires and evil thoughts. She didn't know how many times she died, nor did she know when she moved from the door to the sofa and then to the bed. After several hours of tossing and turning, Jiang's bones seemed to be broken. She really had no strength left, but the man was still full of energy. "Just as I said before, you will have no worries about food and clothing for the rest of your life, and I will support you." He still watched her put on her clothes blatantly. But Jiang felt a burning pain in her heart. Her coat was already tattered like a rag. She didn't understand why he suddenly became so violent. She picked up the coat and threw it into the trash can, then tidied up her clothes and looked at Xunhuan solemnly. "You can't afford it." When Jiang went down to the first floor of the Garden Villa Hotel, she immediately received a call from her mother Song Li, which made her feel like she was being monitored. "You stupid girl! Why hasn't the money been transferred yet? If you don't pay, they will remove the tube from your brother's body. If your brother dies, I won't live either." On the phone, Song Li's anxiety had gone crazy and out of control, and her hoarse voice was tearing Jiang's eardrums madly. Jiang took a deep breath and said into the phone, "Okay, it's just 100,000 yuan. I'll find a way." "What do you mean 100,000? The doctor said 1.5 million. All your brother's medicines must be imported. If we can't get the money, we'll both die." "You're just relieved." "What? 1.5 million? It suddenly increased 15 times. Where can she get it in such a short time?" At this moment, a stack of red heartthrob banknotes fell right at her feet. Money falling from the sky? Jiang looked up and saw a tall man on the terrace of the villa looking down at her with a pair of evil eyes and his usual crazy smile. Throwing money? If he didn't have such a handsome face, she would have thought the man upstairs was an idiot. "What are you doing? Can't you see? I'll throw money at you." As he spoke, he threw down 2 more stacks of RMB, holding a cigarette in his mouth with a wanton and eccentric expression. She had only seen this scene in movies. But Xunhuan did this just to humiliate her. But who could have thought that she suddenly needed money urgently? The dozens of banknotes on the ground seemed to be magnetic at this moment, attracting Jiang's urgent attention. Her throat tightened, but she decided to admit defeat. The view from the terrace was extremely wild and dangerous. When Jiang realized this, she suddenly felt that she had no way out. "How about you lend me 1.5 million, okay?" The moment she opened her mouth, she felt her face burning. Her sense of shame was gone, and she was slapped hard in the face several times. Chapter 4: Adult Transactions. In Lu Xunhuan's eyes, Jiang Qing looked like a daring madman, even a little shameless. He said he couldn't support her 1 second ago, and the next second, he came to borrow money as if he had lost his memory. However, in Jiang Qing's opinion, things would be easier to accomplish if morality and shame were put aside. Lu Xunhuan had a lewd smile on his face, as if he thought things were getting more and more interesting. He hooked his long finger and said, "Bring up the money." Jiang Qing's heart tightened, and she picked up the money as quickly as possible and returned to the room. Lu Xunhuan had already put on his clothes at this time. His ascetic black suit could not hide his cynical and irresponsible spirit. This man is a demon in the world. He dresses coolly and undresses sexy, switching between the two styles freely. If he wasn't so crazy, she would probably be completely fascinated by him. Jiang Qing stared at his long fingers as he opened the cap of the Macallan bottle. His hands were white and slender, with distinct joints, and exuded a cool and artistic sense. The dim light leaked into their wine glass, and their wine and ice cubes blended together, inexplicably tender. He gently swirled the glass and took a sip. His eyes were like those soaked in strong liquor, cold and distant. His two long legs were crossed, and his deep black eyes were rolling under his long raven-like eyelashes. From this perspective, he really looks like a financial sponsor now. Time is short and the task is heavy. Jiang Qing cleared her throat and asked, "Can you lend me 1.5 million? No." Those two crisp and clear words were like a bolt from the blue. Jiang Qing felt her brain go blank for a moment. "With me, there is no borrowing. There is only trading." He put down his glass and hooked his finger at her. Jiang Qing swallowed hard and moved her head closer to him. The man whispered in her ear, "I'll give you 10 million to be my lover." Jiang Qing remained calm. Even though she was so rebellious, she had to put away her thorns and act good. "It's just 1.5 million. I'll pay it in installments. If you don't want to lend it to me, forget it." "Really?" "Sure." Lu Xunhuan took a sip of wine and glanced at her, meaning it's up to you. Jiang Qing's eyes darkened. If she agreed to this financial sponsor, she would really become a plaything. Jiang Qing took a deep breath and stood up. "Thank you. I'll leave first." Lu Xunhuan put down their wine glass. His cold eyes were filled with a sinister look, different from the darkness just now. It was not known whether it was the effect of alcohol, but at this moment, there seemed to be flames leaping in those black eyes. He seemed to be suddenly angry. His mood was unpredictable and unpredictable. Jiang Qing didn't care. She didn't have much time left, otherwise someone might die. When she was about to reach the door, she had already thought of all the possibilities of making money in her mind, but she found that it was really impossible to get such a large sum of money in a short time. She has already given up her dignity and come upstairs. Is she really going to leave like this? "No. Sir, can we trade with another option? I know a lot more." She turned around and looked anxiously at the man who was so close to her. Jiang Qing didn't expect that Lu Xunhuan would follow her over, and she suddenly lost confidence in the second half of her sentence. The man looked at her leisurely. He was thinking carefully about her words, looking at her as if he were examining a commodity. Jiang Qing's heart was beating fast as she waited for his reply. After a long while, Lu Xunhuan finally spoke, "Deal. Next time, let me see what you can do." Jiang Qing paused. When she said she could do a lot, she meant doing housework, writing documents, driving and so on. "Thank you." She didn't explain. The most important thing was to borrow the money first. Lu Xunhuan spread out his palm. "Send me the card number." "Okay, I'll write it down for you." Jiang Qing quickly picked up the notepaper on the table, wrote down a string of numbers and handed it to him. "I will return it to you as soon as possible, thank you very much," she said sincerely. Lu Xunhuan's eyes were dim as he took the note and looked at the beautiful handwriting on it. Jiang Qing. She didn't even want to add him on WeChat. And she didn't even want to know his name. He felt so blocked in his heart, and it was so blocked. After receiving the money, Jiang Qing finally breathed a sigh of relief. He escaped from the devil's lair in almost a second, and then took a taxi directly to the hospital. When I saw Song Li, she didn't go crazy and seemed to have returned to normal. "Mom," Jiang Qing took a deep breath and asked coldly, "What did you give me to drink yesterday? Who told you to do that?" Chapter 5, Wealthy. Aphrodisiac. She smiled and showed Jiang Qing a small app on her phone. It's said to increase interest. Isn't mom smart? Jiang Qing snatched her phone and put it in her pocket. The doctor said you can't look at your phone. I'll keep it for you from now on. No. No. Jiang Qing, give it back to me. Give it back to me. Song Li yelled and cried like a little kid. Mom, I got the money, and I don't need to use this method anymore. Jiang Qing looked at Song Li, hoping she could calm down. But before she could finish her words, Song Li suddenly thought of something and interrupted happily. Thank Lu Tanlang for me. Jiang Qing was puzzled, but had a bad feeling. Look at my brain. Since you two were together, I called Lu Tanlang directly. As soon as he heard about your brother's situation, he readily handed over 1.5 million. Song Li said happily. Jiang Qing's heart skipped a beat when she heard this. Lu Tanlang helped pay the medical bills. Yes, your brother won't have to worry about medical treatment anymore. Song Li's eyes were fixed and her mouth was wide open with a smile. But she and Lu Tanlang didn't even see each other yesterday. We haven't even confirmed our relationship, so we can't take this money. You didn't come back all night before we confirmed our relationship. Do you want to watch me and your brother die? Song Li had deep forehead wrinkles and she was about to get sick. Jiang Qing was calm, but she was already frustrated by the torture. You are pushing me to death. What did you say? Nothing. Jiang Qing didn't want to argue. She just wanted to return the money that their financier had lent her to Lu Tanlang. After returning, she looked through Song Li's cell phone and found no call records with Lu Tanlang. But her brother's hospitalization certificate did receive a payment signed by Lu Tanlang. I don't know how Song Li contacted Lu Tanlang. The car accident 4 years ago left her with a serious sequelae. She always vaguely remembered that her family had contacts with the Lu family in the past, but every time she asked Song Li, she insisted that they did not have any. She also said that if a poor family like theirs wanted to marry into such a top wealthy family, Jiang Qing would have to sacrifice her looks. Every time she thought about this, she felt a headache. 2 days had passed since the incident. Jiang Qing met her best friend and remembered that she had mentioned Lu Tanlang before, so she asked her if she had any contact information. In the coffee shop, Jiang Qing is waiting for her best friend Xunhuan. The foreign waiter came over, and perhaps because he saw that Jiang Qing was dressed simply and was not worthy of coming to the most luxurious coffee shop in Haicheng, he took Jiang Qing's order directly in English. Jiang Qing knew that the common problem of these foreign waiters was that they were pretentious and lazy, and sometimes they would even become arrogant because others said they were good-looking. Jiang Qing spoke fluently and directly refused her service. The waiter looked impatient. Sorry, please leave if you don't want to order. This is a VIP seat. Qing, I'm late. What happened? Xunhuan came and started apologizing. Xunhuan is a small internet celebrity. She is tall, has long legs and a charming appearance. As soon as she came in, she saw the waiter was making things difficult for Jiang Qing. The foreign waiter's expression changed in a second. Seeing Xunhuan, she was as humble as if she was seeing her ancestor. She hurriedly explained in Chinese, "Hello, Miss Shen. I'm very sorry. I didn't know this lady was your friend." Xunhuan didn't even look at her. You don't have to come to work tomorrow. When the waiter heard this, he took 2 steps back, looking frustrated, and dared not speak anymore. Jiang Qing looked at Xunhuan and smiled. It's quite impressive, but it's actually not that serious. Xunhuan took off his sunglasses and said, "It's not that I have a lot of face, it's my boss who has a lot of face." This cafe is also owned by Huafeng Entertainment. Since their waiter is snobbish, it's a good opportunity to clean up the mess. On behalf of my boss, thank you. Your boss, Lu Xunhuan? Lu Tanlang's younger brother? Jiang Qing asked. Yes, Xunhuan said in a low voice with a crazy look on her face. The second master of the Lu family is rich and powerful. Jiang Qing raised her eyelids, understanding her implication, wealthy and powerful. Have you ever tried it? Xunhuan shook her head and smiled evilly. I guessed it. Second master is very handsome. He has a very sexy body. He looks like a wealthy man. If I could spend a night with him, I would be willing to die. Jiang Qing was helpless. Every time Xunhuan mentioned her boss Lu Xunhuan, she couldn't stop talking. The leader of China's entertainment industry, a man of the hour in Haicheng, a billionaire, the man of my dreams. Jiang Qing thought, With so many nicknames in the underworld, this guy must be either a gangster or a show-off. Xing Fengxue saw Jiang Qing was talking nonsense, then she remembered the important matter and asked, "By the way, what did you want to talk to me about today? Can you contact Lu Tanlang?" Jiang Qing finally found a way in. Lu Tanlang. Xing Fengxue was quite surprised. "Why are you asking about him?" Jiang Qing had no choice but to tell her about the blind date, which left Xing Fengxue stunned. "Sister. You're so lucky. You've got the richest family in Shanghai. Who are you going to envy?" Jiang Qing sighed, disliking her for not getting to the point. "It's such a large sum of money, I have to return it to him in person. I don't want to have any disputes with him in the future." Jiang Qing didn't mention the affair, so Xing Fengxue thought that Lu Tanlang might be interested in Jiang Qing, otherwise he would not have paid for her brother's medical expenses. Xing Fengxue took a sip of lemonade. "I've only met him once. He was the award presenter at our company's annual meeting. I felt he was quite polite, but he and second master had a bad relationship. The two brothers were like water and fire and couldn't get along." "That means, you can't contact Lu Tanlang either." Jiang Qing was a little disappointed. Xing Fengxue thought for a moment and said, "Wait a minute, I'll call the second master and ask him." Jiang Qing stretched out her hand to hold her down. "It doesn't have to be so complicated, right? I'll think of another way." "It's okay." Xing Fengxue ignored the advice and made the call. "Hello." A cold and magnetic voice sounded, and Jiang Qing's pupils shrank slightly. This voice was so familiar. Chapter 6 Dirty Dealings. Without waiting for Xie to speak, Jiang Qing picked up the phone and hung up. "You don't want to look for Lu Tanlang anymore?" Xing Fengxue was dumbfounded holding the phone, looking at Jiang Qing. "You are so brave, no one dares to hang up on Mr. Lu. Don't worry about it. I'll find a way." Xing Fengxue was quite worried about Jiang Qing, and asked in a low voice, "Tell me the truth, have you run out of money recently?" She understood her situation, just as Jiang Qing knew that Xing Fengxue had to broadcast live until the early morning every day and once almost died suddenly in the live broadcast room. Jiang Qing shook her head and smiled, "Don't worry about me. I'm a plastic surgeon after all. I won't starve to death." Xing Fengxue didn't believe it, "But you haven't been promoted yet, and your brother needs money." As she spoke, she took out her phone and wanted to transfer money to Jiang Qing. "I got a bonus today. It's enough to support both of us. Save your money well and don't forget your ambitious goals." Jiang Qing held Xing Fengxue's little hand. "My goal is to marry into a wealthy family, preferably my man of honor, and then bring you and your family to heaven." Jiang Qing smiled and said, "Okay, I hope you can help me to rise to heaven." "So are you a chicken or a dog?" Xing Fengxue was just joking. Jiang Qing remembered that she now had a financial sponsor and sighed, "Anything is possible." Xing Fengxue reached out and touched her little face to comfort her. "Poor little thing, go and fight." After the two of them left, Jiang Qing checked the address of Tanlang Group. She decided to try her luck at Lu Tanlang's company. Tanlang Group is almost the same as the legend says, with a grand scale and can be regarded as a landmark building in Haicheng. Jiang Qing came to the front desk and was told that she had to make an appointment before she could see Lu Tanlang. Just when I was wondering what to do, a familiar figure came out of the elevator. A woman wearing glasses stiffened her neck and walked out without recognizing any relatives. She was Lu Tanlang's assistant Meng Ying. "Assistant Meng!" She shouted and walked over a few steps. Meng Ying looked at her, was stunned for 2 seconds, and raised her eyelids, not very friendly. "I'm Jiang Qing, and I want to meet Mr. Lu." "I can't." Meng Ying was extremely arrogant. "Why?" "Mr. Lu has gone abroad." Meng Ying didn't even lift her eyelids when she spoke. It felt like Jiang Qing was a dog skin plaster that had to stick to Lu Tanlang. "You may have misunderstood. I'm here to pay back the money." Jiang Qing remained calm and explained her purpose. Meng Ying said with an impatient "tsk" sound, "Don't you understand? Mr. Lu went abroad and just left this morning. I say you should wake up too. Mr. Lu doesn't even want to see you, which means he doesn't like you. Don't force yourself on me, it's useless." Jiang Qing sneered, her eyes cold. "Are you so afraid of me? Are you afraid to mention dirty deeds in broad daylight?" When Meng Ying heard Jiang Qing say this, the eyes behind her glasses panicked for a moment. She has been pimping for Lu Tanlang for many years, sending young girls to give birth to sons for him, under the pretext of having the eldest grandson inherit the family business. It has happened more than once or twice, but no one is as difficult to deal with as Jiang Qing. Jiang Qing saw her guilty look and glared at her arrogantly. From the corner of my eye, I saw a woman with a nice figure at the front desk. She was about 40 years old, with neat short hair and a very pretty face. She was staring at me closely. Meng Ying looked desperate, pointed at Jiang Qing and started to curse, "Don't be so shameless. Is this a place for you to act wildly? Don't you see what kind of person you are? You want to be our CEO Lu's mistress just by giving yourself drastic measures. Mr. Lu only has our Madam Lu in his heart. Are you crazy about wanting to be promoted? Don't you even think about your own weight?" Meng Ying's voice was so loud that it immediately attracted everyone in the hall to watch. These people were all employees of Tanlang Group, so they naturally spoke up for Meng Ying. A few cleaning ladies even surrounded Jiang Qing and started pointing fingers at her. She looks like a decent person, but she's actually a mistress. How can she compare to Madame Lu? And yet she's still showing off here. Would President Lu be interested in someone like this? Do you think you can become his wife just by paying for his money and sleeping with him? How shameless. The sounds of insults continued to come to her ears, and basins of dirty water were continuously poured on her. Meng Ying stood opposite and looked at her, feeling extremely proud. Her expression seemed to be showing off, fighting with me? Jiang Qing was no pushover. She didn't say a word, but just picked up her phone and recorded it in front of these people. Then he calmly put the phone into his pocket, his expression was calm, and his tone was calm. "Okay, I recorded everything you wanted to say to Lu Tanlang. I didn't expect that a servant would slander his master in private and spread it online. Let's see who will be fired tomorrow." After saying that, she turned and left. Everyone stood there in shock for a while, looking at each other, before they realized that calling her a mistress was the same as discussing the boss's private life. Girl, wait a minute." Several middle-aged women who were afraid of losing their jobs chased after her and called her, but Jiang Qing pretended not to hear them. Meng Ying was so angry that she wanted to chase after him, but was stopped by a voice behind her. "Meng Ying, come back." Jiang Qing was a little curious about their voice. When she turned around, she saw Meng Ying following her happily and attentively. Judging from the back, she is a strong woman with charm and extraordinary aura. Will it be? Before she had time to think about it, the phone rang. It was Lu Xunhuan calling. The phone was connected, and a deep voice sounded, "Where is it?" "I'm." She hesitated for a second. "What's the matter?" "Come out." Chapter 7 Playing with Real Flowers. Jiang Qing was thinking about lying to him the last second. It was true that he was the financial sponsor, but she didn't need to report her itinerary to him. However, she no longer needed to hide it at this moment, as the sponsor's car had already stopped at the gate of Tanlang Group. The black limited edition Cullinan is parked across the road, and the domineering license plate number makes this luxury car full of mystery, making it impossible to keep a low profile. As soon as Jiang Qing walked out of the gate of Tanlang Group, she saw the eye-catching car, whose temperament was extremely compatible with her financial sponsor. "Don't be so arrogant." But parking is not allowed in front of the Tanlang Group. Jiang Qing turned around and looked at the security room of the Tanlang Group. The security guards who were on duty just now were now nowhere to be seen. "Are you all hiding?" At this time, Lu Xunhuan saw Jiang Qing through the car window. She was wearing short jeans, a white skirt and long stockings. She looked youthful and bright, a perfect beauty with a perfect body. Her long legs and thin waist exuded a kind of sexiness that could not be concealed. She came over obediently, then leaned over and looked toward the car window. Lu Xunhuan knew that she couldn't see anything, but he still pressed down with his long finger and deliberately lowered the car window. Eyes met. The man had a pair of ink-stained eyes, sharp eyebrows and narrow eyes. A little mole elongated the lines at the corners of his eyes. He looked cold, aloof, and a little wild. Jiang Qing was embarrassed for a moment and took 2 steps forward to open the passenger door. But the front was locked and she didn't open it. "Come up." Lu Xunhuan raised his finger and the door of the trunk opened. Jiang Qing stepped forward with one of her long legs, and the faint floral scent on her body immediately reminded Lu Xunhuan of that night. He secretly withdrew his gaze from her and ordered the men driving in front, "Go to the club." "Yes, boss." Jiang Qing took the opportunity to glance forward. The young man had a stern profile, his eyes were straight ahead, and he was dressed in black, looking like a Mediterranean bodyguard. But the word boss sounds a bit gangster-like. He is Lu Xunhuan's #1 younger brother, Feng Shi. He has been following Lu Xunhuan since he was a teenager, and the two have a life and death friendship. When Jiang Qing withdrew her gaze, she happened to see Lu Xunhuan browsing photos of beautiful women on a tablet. And he looked at it so seriously. Jiang Qing was speechless. Is this selecting a concubine? It's becoming more and more in line with the style of his financial sponsor. Jiang Qing cleared his throat and spoke first. Sir, you called me here, is there something? Lu Xunhuan didn't raise his eyes, but just made an expression to signal her not to disturb him. Jiang Qing had no choice but to shut up and began a long wait. The atmosphere in the car was a bit awkward, but fortunately Jiang Qing had enough patience. Lu Xunhuan was concentrating on looking at the beauties, but his mind was thinking about the call from Xing Fengshui just now. What surprised him was that he seemed to hear Jiang Qing's voice and Xing Fengshui's last words, "You don't want to find Lu Tanlang anymore." Lu Xunhuan just guessed that Jiang Qing came to see Lu Tanlang, and he turned out to be right. Lu Xunhuan's eyes were gloomy, and the air became oppressive. Half an hour later, he marked the two photos of beauties with a pen, then put the tablet on the shelf and told Feng Shi, "Bring these two to me later." "Yes, boss." Jiang Qing was stunned. How could the sponsor choose a concubine so quickly? Well, rich people play with flowers. She sighed silently, her face still maintaining the gentle expression she had when she first got on the car. Lu Xunhuan finally had time to look at her, and asked in a cold voice, "Why, are you still connected?" "Are." Jiang Qing didn't react for a moment, but when she saw him glance at the building of Tanlang Group, she realized, "No, I came to meet a friend." Lu Xunhuan didn't say anything. He looked up after a while with an unclear expression, "I'm not looking for you. You really are ignoring me." Jiang Qing smiled awkwardly but politely, like a grudge. Oh, it was her illusion. The man's expression was playful, with his usual wild and unruly nature. "Well, I was thinking about how to contact you, but I realized I didn't have your contact information." "Really?" Lu Xunhuan looked like he was listening to a funny joke, with a playful look in his eyes. "Then tell me, what do you miss about me?" When did she say she missed him? Lu Xunhuan was afraid that she didn't understand, so he added, "Don't you want to contact me?" Jiang Qing smiled awkwardly, "Oh, yes." Lu Xunhuan had an indifferent expression, "Okay, I'll take you somewhere, just to keep you company." "Who accompanies whom?" "Oh, okay, where?" She smiled quite appropriately. But she didn't know how fake her smile looked in the man's eyes at that moment. "Can you drink?" "R." She was stunned for a moment and waved her hands quickly, "No." "Okay, drink 2 more glasses for me later." Jiang Qing's face turned black. He was sure of it, and asked her if drinking would be helpful. "Mr. Lu, actually, I have something else to do tonight, how about?" She tried to find an excuse to run away. Lu Xunhuan's eyes were cold. "Didn't you say you know a lot more? Show me tonight." Jiang Qing was caught off guard and blushed. The atmosphere in the car became inexplicably subtle. Chapter 8, Special Hobbies. Jiang Qing subconsciously looked at Feng Shi, who was driving in the front, but he was very calm, as if he didn't notice anything happening in the back seat. Lu Xunhuan's lips were tightly bound together, and he no longer looked at her. The moment he lowered his eyes, his crow-feather-like eyelashes drooped, making his originally approachable appearance more approachable. But Jiang Qing still had some grudges against him in her heart. After all, she had witnessed his most violent side 2 days ago. As soon as this thought came to her mind, images that were not suitable for children emerged one after another in Jiang Qing's mind, and then her face turned red unconsciously, reminding herself to put away the unhealthy thoughts. Lu Xunhuan didn't look at her again. No one knew what he was thinking, his face was cold and resolute. The car drove into an underground parking lot and stopped. The door next to Jiang Qing was opened from the outside by Feng Shi, and she followed Lu Xunhuan out of the car and took the elevator. Lu Xunhuan is tall, and exudes a cold aura that keeps strangers away, like a big block of ice. Just before entering the private room, Lu Xunhuan glanced at Jiang Qing and said to Feng Shi, "Take her to change her clothes." "No, I'll just wear my own clothes." Lu Xunhuan stared at her for 2 seconds, then moved towards Feng Shi, "Go." Yes, boss. Feng Shi respectfully led the way for Jiang Qing. Miss Jiang, follow me this way. Jiang Qing only realized at this time that she didn't know the name of the sponsor yet. How should she address him later? She couldn't call him sponsor daddy? Handsome guy, she said lightly, quite abruptly. Feng Shi. The man's voice was colder than his face. Jiang Qing, conferred God. My name is Feng Shi. This name. Jiang Qing nodded reluctantly, it's pretty cool. Feng Shi had no expression on his face, he just focused on taking her away. Jiang Qing quickly spoke up, just now, I was talking about your boss, what's his last name? Feng Shi gave her a strange look and said, ask yourself. Jiang Qing. This man has a very cold aura and is as erratic as his master. Since the other person didn't say anything, Jiang Qing didn't dare to ask any more. After walking a few steps, Feng Shi brought Jiang Qing to a dressing room filled with mixed fragrances and found a woman dressed up in fancy clothes. Cindy, the boss's person, dress her up. When Cindy heard the name of the boss's man, her arrogant eyes immediately turned into a smile, and she looked at Jiang Qing, the boss's man. Come quickly, I'll help you style it, what's your name? Jiang Qing. She followed him in, a little confused. Cindy looked Jiang Qing up and down and got an idea. I think that school uniform suits you. Student? No, I don't want to change clothes. I'll just wear my own clothes. Jiang Qing quickly refused. No, that won't do. Feng Shi handed you over to me, so I have to change you. Cindy didn't allow any explanation and asked someone to bring the clothes to Jiang Qing. When Jiang Qing took one look at the clothes, she knew it was a typical student uniform. Do rich people have any special fetishes? Do they like uniforms? Jiang Qing couldn't resist, so she took off her denim jacket and put on the student jacket to cooperate. Seeing that the short skirt she was wearing barely matched the outfit, Cindy said nothing. Soon, a waiter opened the door and came in, urging, Sister Cindy, I want you to hurry over. Cindy, right on. Girls, follow me. Jiang Qing followed at the end, feeling extremely awkward. She felt that this way of appearance was like, there are mountains beyond the mountains and brothels beyond the buildings. The light in the private room was dim, but Jiang Qing saw Xunhuan sitting in the center of the sofa at first sight. There were several men sitting next to him, all of them had extraordinary temperament and were obviously rich or noble. Cindy asked the girls to stand in a line and each introduce themselves. Jiang Qing didn't wear much makeup. She stood on the far right, like a clear stream, pure and untainted by dust. The men on the sofa, except Xunhuan, all fixed their eyes on her, first with amazement, then with inquiry. Stop, stop, stop. The person who spoke was Xue Dao, the dude from Haicheng who was standing next to Xunhuan. He had an idle face that could never hide his edge, and he looked a bit cool. Seeing this, the first girl who introduced herself had to shut up. Xue Dao pointed at Jiang Qing and said, please give us a performance first. I am quite interested in you. Jiang Qing's body stiffened and she turned her gaze to Xunhuan. There was an ambiguous look in Xunhuan's eyes. He took a sip of wine slowly, as if waiting to see her reaction. Jiang Qing took a deep breath and stepped out. I think you misunderstood. I came here with that gentleman. Xue Dao followed her gaze and fixed his eyes on Xunhuan, then asked recklessly, Master Huan, is this the mistress you mentioned? His voice was not loud, but Jiang Qing saw it clearly. That person called him Master Huan? Jiang Qing's eyes were fixed on Xunhuan's face. This crazy face coupled with the flirtatious name was quite attractive. She walked over a few steps, came in front of him, suppressed her anger, and said, Sir, I don't think this occasion is suitable for me. I'll leave first. Etc. Xunhuan's voice finally rang out. Jiang Qing was stopped by several bodyguards at the door. She had to turn and look at him. Xunhuan stood up, his nearly 190 centimeters height gave people a strong sense of oppression. That, sir, is it me? He pointed at himself with his backhand, clearly very dissatisfied with what she had just said. Yeah. Jiang Qing remained calm and collected. Xunhuan laughed, but with a mocking tone, you didn't even know who I was, and you sneaked into this private room. Mix. Jiang Qing tried to keep her expression under control and clenched her fingers. Then just pretend I walked into the wrong room. This private room is not one that anyone can go to the wrong way if they want to. The atmosphere froze. Jiang Qing felt the unfriendly looks from people around her. What do you want? Xunhuan picked up a bottle of whiskey from the table and gave it to her. Jiang Qing stared at the bottle of liquor, then slowly looked at Xunhuan. Suddenly, she had an inexplicable thought in her mind. Did they have a grudge against each other? Chapter 9, The Money Man. Shuedao came over, seeming to want to ease the atmosphere. Beautiful lady, don't listen to Master Huan. Wouldn't you die from drinking a bottle of whiskey? You should perform a show. This is the rule. Choose between singing and dancing. Jiang Qing's eyes were always entangled with Xunhuan. She reached out to take the bottle from his hand, tilted her head back and poured it into her mouth. Everyone present was shocked, and then there was a constant stream of booing, with everyone encouraging her to drink harder. Through the transparent wine bottle, Jiang Qing saw Xunhuan's eyes that were expressionless. She simply closed her eyes and wanted to finish the bottle of wine quickly and leave. But soon, someone snatched the bottle away with force. Jiang Qing's eyes were a little blurry and she almost couldn't stand steadily. Xunhuan picked up her half-remaining bottle of wine, frowned, and handed it to Fengshe beside her. Of course, sister. You can drink so well. Shuedao couldn't help but admire her. Pai Shuai's face was full of amazement, and even the way he addressed her changed. Send her away. Xunhuan ordered Fengshe in a cold voice. No, I'll go by myself. Jiang Qing was already stepping on cotton at this time, and staggered out through the door. Foreign liquor tastes good, but once it hits the wind, it instantly makes you drunk. Her stomach churned, and she realized she had to find a place to vomit. Xunhuan sent Fengshe to follow Jiang Qing, while he received a call from Lu Tanlang, saying that Mr. Lu was ill and asked him to go back immediately. Xunhuan didn't care whether the old man was sick or not, he only cared whether he was dead or not, so he rushed back to the Lu family as soon as possible. Jiang Qing had vomited everything and saw a Panamera parked next to her. Fengshe got out of the car and handed her a tissue. Wipe it off. The boss asked me to take you home. Jiang Qing took the paper, wiped her mouth, and became even more drunk. This was her first time drinking strong foreign liquor, and she really underestimated its power. Fengshe almost helped her into the car, but Jiang Qing got in by herself with her strong willpower. Jiang Qing opened the car window a little, the evening breeze blew her hair, and she squinted her eyes slightly, trying to make herself more awake. Fengshe stared at Jiang Qing through the rearview mirror and saw her stubborn and resolute side. A strong light shone from the opposite side. A heavy truck was madly heading towards their car. Careful! Jiang Qing exclaimed. Fengshe turned the steering wheel hard, and the car crashed through the guardrail beside it and fell into the river. Jiang Qing can swim, but she drank too much and her limbs are weak. Her feet were stuck and she couldn't get free of the car immediately. Fengshe in the front seemed to have fainted, and no matter how hard she banged on the back seat, it was of no use. The cold river water soon made her lose consciousness. The terrible feeling of suffocation came over her and she could hardly hold on. Everything was dark before her eyes and her body was cold and stiff. The fear of death flashed wildly through her mind. She finally couldn't hold the breath in her mouth anymore, and then mud mixed with bitter and cold river water poured into her nasal cavity, choking her to the point that her heart was about to explode. Help me! She screamed in her heart, but no one could hear her. The feeling of powerlessness made her see the light of death. Is that the exit for life? She felt a pain in her chest and suddenly spat out a large mouthful of water. Then, she took a deep breath, opened her eyes, and met a pair of dark wolf eyes. She was saved. When Xunhuan saw her wake up, a hint of tenderness appeared in his cold eyes. He took off his coat and wrapped it around her body, and asked, "Do you know me?" Jiang Qing answered subconsciously, "The sponsor." Seeing that she was too weak, Xunhuan didn't argue with her. "It seems that your head is not injured. You remember everything. It's so cold." Jiang Qing half closed her eyes, murmured weakly, and stretched out her arms to get some warmth. The next second, she felt her body warm and was hugged by the man. Chapter 10, Fun and Pleasure. Jiang Qing had already drunk a lot of liquor and had also been in a car accident, so she fell ill and was hospitalized. For 2 consecutive days, her head felt dizzy and she was almost always in a coma, with many chaotic dreams. Sometimes I return to my childhood village, sometimes I dream of my childhood playmates. The handsome young man in the dream was good in every way except that I couldn't see his face clearly. In the dim light, she heard someone talking. Is the truck driver Lu Tanlang's man? It's the voice of the sponsor. Jiang slowly opened her eyes and saw a tall man standing by the window making a phone call. Only then did she notice her surroundings, the luxurious and low-key decoration, the elegant and high-end furniture. She should be in a mansion. Where is this? Is this person's home? After Lu Xunhuan finished the call, he turned to look at Jiang, only to find that she was awake. There was still an drip on her hand. Seeing this, Lu Xunhuan pressed the emergency bell on the wall, and soon a doctor and nurse in white coats came in to help check Jiang. Lu Xunhuan looked at Jiang, showing a rare tender look. How do you feel? Jiang felt a chill in her fingertips as she recalled how close she was to death. While cooperating with the doctor's examination, she replied, I almost died. Lu Xunhuan was silent for a moment. Jiang looked at him and said softly, Thank you for saving me. Lu Xunhuan raised his eyebrows slightly. Besides thank you, is there nothing else to say? Jiang thought for a moment and asked, How is Feng Shi? Is fine. Lu Xunhuan looked indifferent. Actually, I have one more thing. She hesitated, but decided to bring it up. I seem to be in big trouble. Lu Xunhuan looked at her solemnly, without any expression. Jiang clenched her fists tightly, her knuckles turning slightly white. Thinking that her life was in danger at any moment, she felt a chill all over her body. She was so scared. If she died, what would happen to her family? Who would take care of her mother and brother? Someone wants to harm me. She looked at Lu Xunhuan as if seeking protection, without a trace of blood on her thin lips. Her watery eyes looked listless at the moment, like a withered rose, which made people feel pity for her for some unknown reason. So what? So, she looked at him with an earnest look in her eyes. Can you help me? Lu Xunhuan sneered, Call the police. How can I help you? Jiang was a little anxious, because you are also. Halfway through her words, she slammed on the brakes. But Lu Xunhuan refused to let her go and asked, What am I? You too. Big trouble. She didn't dare to say that, so she had to say it sweetly, Big shot. Lu Xunhuan smiled wildly and raised his eyebrows maliciously. The big shot who asked you to call Dad. Dad. Lu Xunhuan enjoyed it and reminded, Didn't you say the sponsor? Jiang's face turned red. But I don't want to be your dad. He glanced at her wickedly, teasing her without any reservation. You know what I want. Ahem. Jiang coughed twice unconsciously. The doctor finished the examination and reported her condition to Lu Xunhuan, interrupting their conversation. Jiang repeatedly weighed the pros and cons in her mind and decided that clinging to someone powerful was the wisest option at the moment. The doctor reminded her to rest for 2 days before going out, and then left the room. I am willing to follow you as long as you protect me. Jiang thought from another perspective. He was such a stunning beauty, at least she was not at a disadvantage. Be a lover? Lu Xunhuan asked directly. You can say that. Jiang thought from another perspective. You are still my lover, isn't that comfortable? Lu Xunhuan didn't expect that she would agree so readily. His eyes darkened and he asked, Do you know what it takes to be my lover? I'm willing to give anything. She spoke with conviction and a determined look in her eyes. The man reached out and played with her pointed chin, his eyes tender. You are quite smart, follow me to have fun in the future, no one can touch you. Chapter 11 Each takes what he needs. Looking for fun? Who are you? Lu Xunhuan bought her a new phone and gave it to her. Jiang opened WeChat and saw that the only contact was a black avatar named Lu Xunhuan. A few hours ago, he had transferred 10 million to her. Jiang was startled and quickly clicked, Return. I don't want your money. Then he realized that the person in front of him was Lu Xunhuan. He panicked and even regretted agreeing to be his lover. Isn't this like using a tiger to drive away a wolf? Everyone knows that Lu Xunhuan is the #1 devil in Haicheng. When he goes crazy, he can do anything, not to mention that he is Lu Tanlang's younger brother. Although it was rumored that the two brothers were incompatible, who was she? Just an outsider. Would Lu Xunhuan offend his brothers for her? Apart from the faint smell of disinfectant, the room was filled with the pleasant smoky wood scent of Lu Xunhuan. The sunlight shining in through the windows suddenly amplified the smell. The man's stern face was exquisite and three-dimensional, making people irresistible. He transferred another sum of money to her, lowered his eyes indifferently. It's just an adult game, each of us gets what we need, and we can go our separate ways when we get tired of it, understand? These words seemed to be spoken to her, but also to himself. Jiang Qing's eyes were entangled with his. The man raised his jaw, with the corners of his mouth curled up in an evil arc, looking cold, domineering and unkind. Jiang Qing knew that the days ahead would be difficult, as if she had boarded a pirate ship and was about to enter the world of a crazy and evil demon. But now that things have come to this, she never thought of leaving a way out for herself. I understand. She was very firm. Hearing her answer, he was very satisfied. I need your company, I will make an appointment with you in advance. There will be a charity dinner next Tuesday, and Lu Tanlang will also go. He stared at her meaningfully. Jiang Qing's heart tightened. Could it be that Lu Xunhuan knew that Lu Tanlang paid for her brother's medical expenses? But he didn't say it, so she just nodded, and then asked anxiously, can our relationship be kept secret? Since they have agreed to be lovers, it is better not to expose them to the sun. This is her last dignity. Lu Xunhuan frowned first, a hint of displeasure flashed in his eyes, and then his expression turned ugly, and he sneered, what are you thinking about? The implication was that she was worrying too much, as the other party had no intention of making her public. Jiang Qing, on the contrary, breathed a sigh of relief and felt relieved. Half of the anchors under my company will go to the charity dinner. Since you have passed the interview, you can attend as an anchor. Lu Xunhuan said it lightly, but he had already arranged everything for Jiang Qing. She just responded to the interview Lu Xunhuan mentioned. Oh. Standing in a row in the club, isn't it a selection of concubines, but a selection of beauties? So that day, I was having a job interview, she realized later. Lu Xunhuan smiled, what do you think you are doing? Jiang Qing didn't dare to say that she had wrong ideas, but she really didn't expect that she would win the favor of the president of the entertainment industry's largest giant with half a bottle of whiskey. Speaking of being a host, she remembered what her best friend once said, that if one does a good job, one can earn a lot from each show. Although she said she was Lu Xunhuan's lover, she actually hoped to return the money to him as soon as possible. This kind of relationship was not glorious. You played the self-torture trick well, but once is enough. Don't let me see you drinking again next time. Lu Xunhuan's eyes were sharp, interrupting her thoughts and warning her. Jiang Qing agreed readily. She didn't like drinking in the first place, but she did it out of necessity. She remembered that when she was in her third year of graduate school, she was often forced by her supervisor to drink. After staying in the hospital, she had to drink with suppliers of the medical device company. Although she could drink, she was really fed up with the hypocritical drinking culture. Jiang Qing rested at Lu Xunhuan's place for a few days and felt that she had almost recovered. One sunny day, she opened the door to the terrace, put on some clothes and went out to bask in the sun. Lu Xunhuan's house seems like a paradise. The freshness of the morning dew and the scent of grass are refreshing. Jiang Qing wanted to go out for a walk, but she didn't see anyone. The feeling of keeping strangers away was very consistent with Lu Xunhuan's temperament. Antique furniture is placed randomly in the corners, and world-famous paintings are hung directly on the walls as decorations. Lu Xunhuan is really crazy. Jiang Qing sighed, and suddenly saw the bathroom door open. Lu Xunhuan walked out, with broad shoulders and a narrow waist, clear abdominal muscles, and a white bath towel around his waist that half covered his sexy mermaid line. Full of desire. Jiang Qing's eyes warmed up, and her nostrils were filled with the intoxicating scent of smoky wood. Chapter 12, No Indulgence. Even though Jiang Qing was seduced by the man's body, she still saw the scarlet blood oozing from his waist at a glance. He was actually injured. Lu Xunhuan was quite surprised to see her. Why did you come down? I feel well enough now and want to go out for a walk. When were you injured? Care about me? There seemed to be a hint of smile in Lu Xunhuan's cold eyes. How come I didn't notice you were injured for so many days? She was puzzled. How many days have you slept? Don't you know? Lu Xunhuan took the medicine box, sat on the sofa, looked up at her, and said, come here. Jiang Qing walked over and stood in front of him. His narrow eyes glanced at the empty space on the sofa beside him. Bandage me up. Jiang Qing had no choice but to sit down. Bandaging was something she was good at anyway. She first took a closer look at the bandage on his waist. The wound was at least 10 centimeters in diameter. Jiang Qing raised her eyes and met his deep and clear eyes. He had just washed his face, and his hair on his forehead was slightly wet, making him look fresh and charming. "I'll help you take off this bandage and simply treat the wound first." Lu Xunhuan said nothing, allowing her nimble long fingers to remove the old gauze from his waist layer by layer. After removing the last piece of gauze, his muscular abdominal muscles were completely exposed to her eyes, along with the wound with red flesh protruding outward. Like a knife wound or a cut with a sharp object. The wound was very deep. She held her breath and used disinfectant cotton to disinfect him. She also comforted him, "It will hurt a little, just bear with it." The man nodded, with a hint of scarlet in his eyes. Jiang Qing was fully focused and her hands were deft, so after all the operations, Lu Xunhuan didn't feel any pain at all. After helping him put the gauze on, Jiang Qing looked up at him again. "Stand up, I'll help you bandage it." The man made no move to stand up, but sat up straight. Jiang Qing understood what he meant and her expression froze. She had no choice but to stand up, then squat in front of him and stretch the bandage to wrap around his muscular waist and abdomen. This posture was too ambiguous, making Jiang Qing extremely embarrassed. Lu Xunhuan lowered his eyes and looked at her. This charming face came back to life. The bandage was stretched by her arm span. The moment she hugged him, the fullness of her chest made him explode. Jiang Qing bandaged him and looked up at him, just in time to meet those eyes with unclear emotions. She was startled for a second. The light above his head was soft, making his overly arrogant face look somewhat youthful, and his smooth and powerful muscle lines exuded extremely seductive male hormones. The stark contrast made her feel overwhelmed. Jiang Qing quickly lowered her head and pretended to be busy, and went to organize the medicine box. The whole action was done in one go, without any drag. Just when she was about to leave this dangerous place, Lu Xunhuan grabbed her wrist and pulled her into his arms. She almost fell into his arms, and the distance between them was very close. Lu Xunhuan stared at the woman in front of him with his wolf eyes full of aggression, as if he was going to swallow her up in the next second. The man's gaze was hot, his breath was scorching, and even the young and strong heart beneath his solid muscles was bursting with infinite passion. Jiang Qing's throat felt dry and she felt like if this continued, she would die. "This look is simply deadly. Don't do strenuous exercise, otherwise the wound will open." She tried to dissuade him, her watery eyes tinged with a hint of shyness. But Lu Xunhuan didn't seem to buy her trick. After all, he could do whatever he wanted. "If it's not intense, will you feel good?" He narrowed his eyes and suddenly put his arms around her waist, pressing her chest close to him. The posture was too ambiguous and Jiang Qing felt that her breathing was a little difficult. "You can't indulge in lust. I'm a doctor and you'd better listen to me." She tried to make a last-ditch effort. Lu Xunhuan waited to hear what she said, like a very patient lion ready to enjoy its prey later. "Doctor? You're very skilled." Jiang Qing nodded, quite seriously. "Next time I'll use a cosmetic needle to sew up your wound so it doesn't leave scars." Lu Xunhuan suddenly lost his patience and pushed the man onto the sofa without saying a word. Jiang Qing was really pressed down, face down. Lu Xunhuan didn't say a word and pressed her slender waist hard. Jiang Qing realized that something was wrong and struggled to swear. Lu Xunhuan slapped his butt as a punishment and warned, "The wound just split open, help me with the beauty needle." Jiang Qing, Lu Xunhuan, you lunatic. Chapter 13, It's so cool. Jiang Qing felt a chill down her body, and her pants were pulled down a bit. She held her breath and her face turned red. She had already prepared herself to face his violent storm in the next second, but his doorbell suddenly rang. Lu Xunhuan raised his head and glanced at the surveillance camera, his lips slightly raised with a look of indifference. Jiang Qing felt that he had no intention of stopping, so she reminded him softly, "Someone is coming. It's Lu Tanlang!" Exclamation point. Lu Xunhuan pulled up her pants and stood up from the sofa. Jiang Qing breathed a sigh of relief. Lu Xunhuan turned around and walked towards the door. Jiang Qing watched him unlock the outer door. She looked around. "Where in your house can I hide?" Lu Xunhuan put on his shirt, buttoned up his cuffs, and raised his eyelids slightly. "What are you hiding?" Jiang Qing was somewhat speechless. Of course lovers have to be low-key. Lu Xunhuan found this pleasing to the ear and fluttered his eyelids. "Upstairs." Jiang Qing went upstairs without saying a word. As you enter any room, the elegant scent of smoky wood hits you in the face. The interior furnishings were grand and magnificent, and a large bed reminded her that this was the master's bedroom. Hearing noises coming from downstairs, Jiang Qing curiously opened the door a crack. She wanted to hear what they were saying. Lu Tanlang was not tall, dressed neatly in a suit and tie, and wearing a pair of gold-rimmed glasses. Just as Xing Fengxue said, he looked very gentle. As soon as he came in, Lu Tanlang began to worry about Lu Xunhuan's injury, and the eyes behind his glasses became extremely tender. "Xiao Huan, are you hurt?" "Xiao Huan?" Jiang Qing couldn't help but laugh when she heard this title. What a cute contrast, right? The big devil is called Xiao Huan. I can't die. Lu Xunhuan ignored him. Lu Tanlang sat on the sofa and saw the medicine box next to him, his eyes darkened. I have informed the police station and will ask them to close the case as soon as possible. My brother, Lu Tanlang, will not be injured in vain. That guy will pay the price. Lu Tanlang's expression was solemn. When Lu Xunhuan heard this, he simply sat down at the table opposite the sofa, glanced at Lu Tanlang in a somewhat ruffian manner, and suddenly laughed out loud. Lu Tanlang seemed to be used to his brother's crazy behavior. He didn't care why he suddenly laughed. He still looked concerned. Tell me, how badly you are injured. Your sister-in-law is also concerned about you. You really don't know how I got injured. Lu Xunhuan's eyes were cold, and for a moment he became as sinister as Shura. Jiang Qing upstairs heard it all clearly. Imagining Lu Xunhuan's wild and unruly expression, she felt inexplicably fucking good. How should I know? You're not doubting me, are you, little brat? Lu Tanlang was really angry and roared at Lu Xunhuan. Lu Xunhuan was even wilder. Don't worry, I will settle accounts with you sooner or later. Who are you, father? You are my brother. Lu Tanlang's voice was so loud that it echoed throughout the building. Brother. Lu Xunhuan spoke each word with a fierce expression. You know what you have done. There was silence downstairs for a minute. Jiang Qing's heart was pounding. She felt that things were becoming increasingly confusing, but she had no clue. These two brothers are not just incompatible, they have a deep hatred for each other. She didn't know whether Lu Xunhuan's injury was caused when he rescued her that day, but when she woke up and heard Lu Xunhuan on the phone saying that the truck driver was Lu Tanlang's man, it meant that Lu Tanlang wanted to harm her. As for what the purpose was, she still hadn't figured it out. But one thing is certain, only Lu Xunhuan can protect her. There was a slamming sound of a door downstairs, and Lu Tanlang left with several bodyguards outside the gate. Just as Jiang Qing was about to push the door open to leave, she heard Lu Xunhuan talking on the phone downstairs in an angry voice. Fengshe, if you're not dead, show up right away. Then he slammed the phone into the sofa. Jiang Qing didn't dare to delay for a moment, fearing that if she went down a minute late, she would suffer the same fate as her cell phone. But after going downstairs, she just stood far away and didn't take the liberty to go directly to him. Lu Xunhuan sat on the sofa, feeling extremely upset. After a while, he half closed his eyes and beckoned Jiang Qing with his finger. Come here. Jiang Qing walked over and sat down next to him obediently. The man's big hand instantly clasped the back of her neck, and with a force, she involuntarily moved closer and met his eyes. His eyes were heroic and compelling, with a cluster of light on his head, drawing along his high nose, plump lips, and sharp jawline, making his cold and pale face look even more profound and unruly. Continue. Chapter 14. Come live with me. He put his hand against her forehead, his voice was magnetic and seductive. Okay. She clasped her hands together and spoke softly. He paused for a few seconds. The air became silent, with only the sound of Jiang Qing's sudden heartbeat being heard. Lu Xunhuan's hand slowly slid down her neck and landed on her shoulder, then he pulled her into his arms. Jiang Qing's body stiffened slightly. A man's voice came, Jiang Qing, be real, okay? What? You can refuse me this time. Not sure if it was an illusion, but Jiang Qing seemed to hear his barely perceptible sigh. There was another silence. Is he feeling sorry for her? Because her injury had just healed and he couldn't bear it, so he suddenly showed mercy? She was confused and couldn't understand why this devil wanted to eat vegetarian food and chant Buddhist scriptures again. Is the man who just came Lu Tanlang? She asked after clearing her throat. Lu Xunhuan let her go and looked at her inquiringly. What's wrong? Jiang Qing narrowed her eyes slightly. Nothing, I'm just curious. Lu Xunhuan smiled and lit a cigarette. You are in Cao's camp but your heart is with Han. Jiang Qing's heart skipped a beat, and she quickly explained, "That's not what I meant. I'm just a little curious about how you got hurt. It has nothing to do with you. Just get out of here once you've recovered from your injury." Xunhuan put out his cigarette, stood up and left. Jiang Qing's face darkened and she swallowed a breath. The devil's mood swings were really enough. Just go, she doesn't want to stay here any longer. At this time, the door opened again, and it was Fengshe who came. Jiang Qing hadn't seen him since the last car accident and was a little worried. He walked in wearing a sports sweatshirt, a large hat, his head lowered, and his face was covered with bruises. Xunhuan glanced at Jiang Qing, and Jiang Qing nodded consciously to Fengshe and walked out the door. There was a bodyguard outside the door to escort Jiang Qing away. Following Xunhuan, her personal safety was finally guaranteed. After Jiang Qing left, Xunhuan no longer had any worries. He stood up and signaled Fengshe with his eyes, "Let's go to the boxing gym." The two went down to the basement. Xunhuan rebandaged the wound with skillful movements. Fengshe stood opposite him, his head lowered, his handsome face extremely gloomy. "What's going on?" Xunhuan threw him a pair of boxing gloves. The two men took up their stances, practicing boxing while reviewing the fight. "I fell into the other party's trap of luring the tiger away from the mountain." Fengshe took a step back and avoided Xunhuan's heavy punch. "Go on." Xunhuan punched again like a lion. Fengshe flashed to the left and said, "The truck driver is from the Tanlang group. The old man called you away that night because he didn't want you to get involved." Xunhuan nodded, "I know all of this, tell me something useful." Fengshe also threw a punch quickly, it was Madame Lu who wanted to kill Miss Jiang. "Fang Chuanxia." Xunhuan caught his punch. "Yeah." Fengshe had no expression on his face. After the game ended, Xunhuan took a sip of water. If Fang Chuanxia wanted to kill Jiang Qing because she was afraid that Jiang Qing would become Lu Tanlang's mistress and threaten her position, it would be a blessing in disguise. At least Fang Chuanxia's strength is not worth mentioning and is easy to deal with. But the worst case scenario is that Lu Tanlang knows Jiang Qing's true identity, so he must eliminate her. "Boss, your injury." Fengshe looked at Xunhuan's wound with great concern. "That day at the club, after you took Jiang Qing away, someone suddenly attacked me in the bathroom." "Who is so bold?" "I didn't catch up with you. I called you right away but couldn't get through. I knew something was wrong." After listening to what Xunhuan said, Fengshe nodded silently. Fortunately, the club was not far from the site of the car accident that day. When Xunhuan arrived at the scene was very chaotic. He jumped into the icy river to save Jiang Qing without thinking. At this time, Fengshe's phone rang. "Hello, I'm Officer Wang, the officer who just handled the case. I have something to report to you." Fengshe turned on the radio and said, "Please speak." "The driver jumped from a building in the hospital and died on the spot. We found a large amount of liquor in the car, and the case is currently classified as drunk driving." Fengshe looked at the boss and replied, "I see. Thank you for your hard work." Xunhuan's eyes were cold, of course things couldn't be that simple. "Send me more people to protect Jiang Qing's safety." "Yes, boss." Fengshe was about to leave after receiving the order, but was stopped by Xunhuan. "Wait, bring the dress prepared for Jiang Qing for the dinner, and by the way." Xunhuan thought for 2 seconds and ordered, "Let her stay at my place tonight." Chapter 15 Sexy Beauty. When Fengshe went to pick up Jiang Qing, she was in the hospital. Songli suddenly fell ill and she had to stay behind to take care of her brother who was in a comatose state. Fengshe handed her the dress that Xunhuan had prepared for her. Jiang Qing wanted to refuse, but Fengshe didn't give her a chance to speak and left. When I opened the box, inside was a white feather haute couture fishtail skirt, which was extremely luxurious and worth a lot of money. Jiang Qing was surprised that Xunhuan could gauge her size so accurately, but at the same time she reminded herself not to be completely trapped by their financial sponsor. It didn't matter whether she wore a dress or not. She was just going to Lu Tanlang to pay him back, not to attend any real dinner. As for the dress, she decided to return it to the mall and give it back to Xunhuan for cash. Jiang Qing looked at her watch and saw that the mall was still closed, so she asked a caregiver to look after Jiang Yu and went straight to the mall with the dress. Arriving at the brand counter, Jiang Qing handed the clothes to the salesperson and said, "Hello, I want to return the goods." The salesperson took a closer look at the clothes and rejected them directly. Sorry, this is not our product. Jiang Qing quickly took a closer look and found that there was indeed a letter missing. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Sorry for the trouble. Jiang Qing quickly put the clothes away. At this time, a man walked over and said disdainfully, "You want to bring this kind of cheap stuff into our store and pass it off as the real thing?" Jiang Qing looked up and saw a young man with extraordinary looks and dark complexion standing opposite her with an extremely arrogant attitude. When the salesperson saw him, he immediately bowed and greeted him, "Hello, Mr. Yuan." It turned out to be the boss. Jiang Qing didn't care about that. Her tone became unpleasant. "I just saw it wrong." Yuan Minchi said sarcastically, "The girl is pretty and young, but it's a pity that she is a little blind and actually likes that brand." He looked at the dress in her hands with disdain. Jiang Qing was directly attacked personally, so she would not tolerate him anymore. She glanced at the clothes in his store and said calmly, "The dress I have in my hand should be more expensive than any other dress in your store. Who is so blind?" Yuan Minchi narrowed his eyes slightly and looked at Jiang Qing. He suddenly found it interesting. No one around him had ever dared to talk to him like this. "I just think the dress in your hand is too old-fashioned." Yuan Minchi casually picked up a suspender dress and showed it to her. "Look, only this kind of dynamic brand can match a young, beautiful and sexy beauty like you." As he said this, he gave Jiang Qing a wicked smile. His teasing intention was self-evident. Jiang Qing ignored him and looked at the dark green trendy clothes on Yuan Minchi. She said in a light tone, "Don't think that you can be sexy just by wearing green. It will only ruin your brand's popularity." After saying that, she turned and left. Yuan Minchi looked at her back for a long time before leaving. Since she couldn't return the dress, Jiang Qing had to go back first. The next day, Song Li's condition improved and she continued to come back to take care of Jiang Yu, so Jiang Qing returned home. There was less than an hour left before the dinner started. Jiang Qing stared at the dress Lu Xunhuan had given her, deep in thought. She took off her clothes in front of the mirror, found a bra that fit her chest nicely and put it on. Then Jiang Qing changed into a white feather fishtail dress. She has a long white neck, deep collarbone, and thin shoulders that glow white under the light. She has a slim waist and a pert butt, and her legs are half exposed under the slit skirt, looking cold, white, and holy. She is like a noble white swan, elegant and sexy. The cell phone buzzed, reminding her that Feng Shi had already driven downstairs. Jiang Qing went downstairs quickly, but the moment she got into the car she smelled the familiar scent of light tobacco wood. Then, Lu Xunhuan got out of the cab, opened the door of the trunk, and sat next to her unexpectedly. Chapter 16, Attracting Bees and Butterflies. The two of them were very close, and the light smoky wood scent on his body was amplifying unrestrainedly, aggressively occupying her entire breath. "Master Lu, why are you here?" She was quite surprised. She never thought that Lu Xunhuan would come to pick her up in person. Lu Xunhuan didn't plan to answer her question. Instead, he carefully looked at the skirt she was wearing from top to bottom. His cold eyes were slightly deep, like ink, and his voice was a little hoarse. "I'll drain you in advance." Jiang Qing was stunned, thinking she had heard wrongly. Lu Xunhuan raised his hand, grabbed her wrist, and pulled her towards him. Jiang Qing was caught off guard and her dress was pulled up. The man put his hand on her thigh and said in a slightly bad tone, "Because you'll attract many men when you go out." Jiang Qing finally understood what he meant, her fox eyes sparkling in the dark. "You don't trust me?" "Because I'm going to meet Lu Tanlang later." Lu Xunhuan's voice was hoarse. "It's to remind you not to forget your duty as a lover." "Yes." If Jiang Qing wants to show her kindness to him, she must try a dangerous decision. She slowly placed her hand over his and rubbed it gently. She looked at him indifferently, her eyes as clear as water. The intention is obvious. Lu Xunhuan didn't spoil her. Since she came to him on her own initiative, of course he would eat her. He turned her body forcefully and pressed all her softness against the cold seat. Jiang Qing groaned. She didn't expect that this madman would attack her from behind again. "Mr. Lu, can we wait until the dinner is over?" She wanted to think of a roundabout way. The air conditioner in the car was set to a very low temperature, and a chill ran up my back. The man above had a violent and sinister look on his face, like a devil who had escaped from hell, with an aura of impending storm raging around him. Jiang Qing's heart rose to her throat. Her slender waist was pressed mercilessly, leaving her no chance to refuse. She gasped, half of her face pressed against the seat, her facial features were squeezed and deformed, her heart was pounding, and all her senses became infinitely sharp at this moment. The sound of the man unbuttoning his belt was crisp and clear, like a ritual, indicating that the carnival was about to begin. The neon lights outside the car window flashed miserably and then stopped. Jiang Qing's wrists were restrained and imprisoned, and just like before, she did not receive any mercy or tenderness from the man. "It hurts," she whimpered through gritted teeth. "Where does it hurt?" he said in a hoarse voice. She couldn't say it. In fact, she has not recovered during this period of time. Her hands hurt, her body hurts, and everything hurts. Seeing that she didn't say anything, the man leaned close to her ear and said in a hoarse voice with a bad tone, "Bear it for me." He seemed to be punishing her. He was not angry because she was going to see Lu Tanlang. He was just annoyed and hated himself for having such a strong desire to protect and possess her. It was the kind of feeling that had been suppressed for a long time and suddenly awakened. He reached out and pinched her chin, forcing her to twist in an awkward position. His hot breath sealed her poor lips and fed them in little by little, forcing back all her miserable moans. The light in front of her eyes flickered, and the neon halo gradually expanded, became out of focus, and blurred, like duckweed floating in the water. The ripples in the clear lake water were like her wrinkled heart. It seemed like someone was setting off fireworks outside, and Jiang Qing's eyes suddenly lit up with brilliance. As if she had experienced the illusion of near death, Jiang Qing softened in the man's arms. The intense feeling just now was all a dream. Her body looked like it had been disassembled and reassembled by a renovation team. Jiang Qing's shoulder strap had fallen off at some point, and Xunhuan had to help pick it up. "Pull your clothes higher." Xunhuan's voice was a little hoarse, and the lust in his eyes had not yet subsided. Jiang Qing's heart suddenly tightened. "Is there a mark on the body?" Xunhuan chuckled, afraid. Jiang Qing. To be honest, she was quite scared. "Second Master Lu, you care so much about me meeting Mr. Lu, are you jealous?" Xunhuan was stunned for a moment, then the corners of his mouth suddenly curved into a cold smile. He lit a cigarette, his narrow eyes hidden in the darkness, making it impossible to tell whether he was happy or angry. Jiang Qing felt a chill in her heart. Nothing good would happen every time he acted like this. Maybe he was brewing some crazy idea. "Are you jealous of Lu Tanlang?" he asked her while laughing. Jiang Qing thought about it carefully. "Maybe he has developed feelings for me over time." As soon as she said it, she actually regretted it. What did she say? He retracted his smile and blew a cigarette at her in a nasty way. Cough cough. She couldn't help but cough twice. "Call me second master." His ending tone was light and had a teasing tone. The word, airy, coming out of his mouth carries a feeling of being fallen into the dust. Scream. His malicious repetition made her more convinced that her idea was correct. Second master. She could only go along with him. Softer, more naughty. She stared at him in astonishment, finding it hard to believe that such vulgar words came out of his noble mouth. Second master. She squeezed out these words from between her teeth. As if being tickled by a feather, the man's eyes darkened, and he suddenly reacted. "You are like this, that's what I like, understand?" He looked down at her like an emperor. That look was extremely humiliating, telling her that to him, she was just a plaything for his amusement. Chapter 17 Heartbeat. By the time Jiang Qing arrived at the banquet, her waist and legs were still sore and she was shaking a little when she walked. I even want to curse. Could it be that she has kidney deficiency due to excessive indulgence? She is only 22 years old. Damn, Lu Xunhuan is simply not a human being. He said he was afraid she would attract a lot of other men, but in the end he just slept with her again. She swore that she would pay him back as soon as she made money, and when the time came, she would sleep with him again and attack him from behind. "After you are done, you have to tell him that I just treat you as a stud." They separated when they arrived at the dinner, and Jiang Qing successfully found Lu Tanlang's lounge. "Knock on the door gently." Lu Tanlang's secretary came and opened the door. Jiang Qing first introduced herself. The 50-year-old secretary looked her up and down like a maid in the palace. Her face was very bad and her tone was even worse. "Tell me again, who are you?" The old secretary's expression reminded her of Lu Tanlang's assistant Meng Ying. Why were the people under him so uniform in temperament? It can be seen that Lu Tanlang must be extremely arrogant. Jiang Qing took a deep breath and was about to repeat herself when she heard a deep voice coming from the room. Secretary Wang, I made an appointment with her. Let her in. Only then did Nanny Wang reluctantly give up a small space for Jiang Qing to come in. The lounge was large, spacious and bright, and Lu Tanlang was sitting there reading a book. He was wearing an expensive black and grey suit, a neatly tied tie, sitting in a dignified posture, and wearing a pair of glasses that obscured his unfathomable gaze. His dress and speech were consistent with his actual age. He was calm and sophisticated, but without a trace of middle-aged greasiness. Sit. He looked up at her, put down the book in his hand, and winked at Secretary Wang, asking her to leave. The Lu Group is a top wealthy family, so Lu Tanlang has naturally seen all kinds of beauties. But Jiang Qing was one of the few people he could never forget. The girl was wearing a white dress and had her hair tied up in a bun. She looked as sweet as an angel, had a hot body like a devil, and had a pair of beautiful eyes that were charming and charming. Jiang Qing. The man looked straight at her, unsmiling. I've seen your picture, you're very beautiful, it makes my heart beat faster. He waited to see her reaction, his eyes extremely cold as he examined her silently. I'm here to pay back the money. Jiang Qing went straight to the point and explained her purpose. Then, she took out an envelope from her purse and placed it on the table, pushing it to him. Inside is the bank card and password, a total of 1.5 million. By the way, I came to thank you in person. Lu Tanlang glanced at the bank card, frowned slightly, and then looked up. Jiang Qing said directly, Mr. Lu, I didn't know you had a family and a wife before the blind date. I can't be your mistress. If my mother calls you again, just don't answer. Lu Tanlang was silent for a few seconds, then he fluttered his eyelids and his eyes looked a little fiercer. He fiddled with the ring on his ring finger and raised the corner of his mouth. Did you misunderstand? I can divorce you, please think about it again. No, I have something else to do, so I'll leave first. Lu Tanlang's aura frightened Jiang Qing, and she stood up and was about to leave. Then please do as you please. Lu Tanlang's for low words even made Jiang Qing feel like she was pardoned. When she came out of his lounge, she met Secretary Wang, who was waiting at the door again, and the old woman gave her a blank look. Baffling. The charity gala starts in half an hour. Jiang Qing completed an important task and then remembered that Song Li wanted to see Lu Tanlang's photo. Originally, this kind of occasion had no appeal to Jiang Qing, but thinking that she would have to take a secret photo of Lu Tanlang later, she had no choice but to grit her teeth and wait for the party to begin. Feeling a little hungry, she went to the cold food area and ate something. Soon, a man appeared and followed her. Jiang Qing turned around and saw that it was the owner of them all. Yuan Minchi looked at her leisurely, with a hint of surprise in his ruthless eyes. It seems that my brand of clothes is indeed not worthy of you. Jiang Qing didn't know what to say and felt a little embarrassed. Yuan Minchi did not hide his feelings and directly praised her. This dress is still sexier. Jiang Qing. It was Lu Xunhuan's voice. Jiang Qing looked over and saw that Lu Xunhuan looked unhappy and was walking towards her. Yuan Minchi was surprised for 2 seconds, then sneered, looking disappointed. Lu Xunhuan came over and stood between Jiang Qing and Yuan Minchi. He lowered his eyes to look at Jiang Qing and said in a cold voice, Everyone has gathered, but you are the only one missing. Are you hungry? Everyone. Jiang Qing turned around and saw Xing Fengxue. She suddenly realized that she was attending this charity dinner today as the anchor of Huafeng Entertainment Group, so naturally she should stand with everyone. I'm going over there. She was smart enough to leave. Wait, Yuan Minchi said lazily, looking at Lu Xunhuan provocatively, she is your anchor. What does it have to do with you? Lu Xunhuan looked at him with a cold gaze, and sparks could be seen between their glances. These two people, one doesn't care about his relatives when he goes crazy, and the other doesn't leave any way for others to survive. Or. Yuan Minchi's eyes sternly said, she is your little lover. At this time, Lu Tanlang was walking towards them. Chapter 18, A Vicious Vision. The confrontation between the two demon kings was like a fight between gods. This attracted a lot of people to watch. Lu Tanlang also came over and looked at the three people. His eyes were cold and resolute, as if he was waiting to hear how Lu Xunhuan would answer. Jiang Qing's heart was in her throat. She was afraid that Lu Xunhuan would go crazy and directly admit their relationship. After Yuan Minchi asked that question, he handed a wine glass to Lu Xunhuan and Jiang Qing respectively, and then teased Lu Xunhuan, look at me, I'm narrow-minded. Even if you, second Master Lu, are good at that, you can't have all your anchors visit you one by one. Come and have a drink. These words were totally inconsistent with the atmosphere of the dinner party that day. The naughtiness in him was different from Lu Xunhuan's wildness. He was ruthless and vicious, which made people feel disgusted from the bottom of their hearts. Jiang Qing held the cup and knew that she shouldn't speak, but she couldn't help but want to confront him. However, Lu Xunhuan took the first step, raised the cup in his hand, ignored Yuan Minqi, and clinked glasses with her. Jiang Qing's heart skipped a beat and she looked up at him. Lu Xunhuan looked at her with a carefree look in his eyes. He was not affected by Yuan Minqi. He looked at Jiang Qing and asked with a sneer, "This guy has a very sharp eye." This one sentence made Jiang Qing feel like being struck by lightning. Is he saying this to acknowledge their relationship? Just as Lu Tanlang's eyes were fixed on Jiang Qing, Lu Xunhuan spoke again cynically, "You can see that I am going to have sex with each of you." Afterwards, the onlookers burst into laughter as if they had heard a joke. Jiang Qing's face turned red, which was a reaction after being too frightened. Xiaohuan. Lu Tanlang came over, frowned slightly, and rebuked Lu Xunhuan, "Don't embarrass the girl. What kind of dirty jokes are you telling in this kind of situation?" Lu Xunhuan said disdainfully, "Yuan Minqi envies the second master. I will teach you the essentials of the movements when I have time." Yuan Minqi sneered. Although he was at a disadvantage, he still said stubbornly, "Brothers, this is your Lu family's home court. I'm leaving. Let my assistant drive you away." Lu Xunhuan did not forget to tease. Xiaohuan. Lu Tanlang reprimanded again, "Minute Kai is the second richest man in Haicheng, the only son of the Yuan family, you should be polite to him. I don't care if he's an only son or a calf." Lu Xunhuan muttered, pulling Jiang Qing away, "Go find your little sister, don't cause a commotion here." He pulled her all the way to the emergency exit outside before stopping. "Let go." Jiang Qing shook off his hand. Her wrist was really painful from being pinched. "How many things are you hiding from me?" The man's eyes were fierce and his tone was even fiercer. In the dim light, that sexy and handsome face was covered with a layer of haze. Jiang Qing regained her composure and said calmly, "Do I need to report everything about me to you? But that bastard Yuan Minqi is a beast. Why did you provoke him?" Jiang Qing couldn't stand it no matter how calm she was. She was already holding back her anger. Facing the man's unreasonable behavior, she simply stopped pretending. "Second Master's desire to control me is too strong. Why don't you admit that you like me?" Lu Xunhuan's eyes turned slightly, and his voice was very cold, "I like you, not you. Put yourself in the right position. It's all right. I don't care." Jiang Qing's indifferent eyes were like an invisible knife that killed people without leaving any blood. Lu Xunhuan felt an inexplicable pain in his heart. "Don't care? Then why are you around me?" His wolf eyes were bright, as if he was eager to find the answer he wanted from her pupils. Jiang Qing finally suppressed her anger. Why did she act so impulsively and make him unhappy? He is the sponsor. Okay, I was wrong. She admitted her mistake first. Being able to bend and stretch is her specialty. But the sponsor became even angrier when he saw her changing her attitude at any time. Whatever. Leaving her behind, he opened the door and went out. Lu Xunhuan did not return to the party, but leaned against the wall and smoked a cigarette. White smoke lingered from the slender fingertips. He exhaled a puff of cigarette, drooped his long eyelashes, narrowed his eyes, and hated himself for getting so angry with Jiang Qing. They had just met twice, and she didn't know the man's true face. Back in Southeast Asia, Yuan Minqi and his gang of younger brothers committed many murders and arson. Their methods were cruel and vicious. There was nothing he would not dare to do as long as he decided to do it. So Lu Xunhuan was too worried about Jiang Qing. But then he thought, that woman has a bad temper too, how dare she quarrel with him? Feng received a call from the boss 5 minutes ago. Seeing him smoking alone, he hurried over. "Boss, you're looking for me." Bang! Lu Xunhuan stepped forward and slapped him on the face. Feng was stunned after being beaten. Lu Xunhuan held a cigarette in his mouth and straightened his suit. "I asked you to keep an eye on Jiang Qing, so how did Yuan Minqi target her?" Feng was shocked when he heard this. "I'm sorry, boss. When Miss Jiang was shopping in the mall, I followed her from a distance because I didn't want to disturb her. Besides, Yuan Minchi and she only met once and didn't have much communication. All right, stop talking. Lu Xunhuan said impatiently, next time, you protect her closely and don't allow Yuan Minchi to get close to her. Yes, boss. Send her home. Lu Xunhuan did not forget that Jiang Qing was alone in the elevator. But when Feng Shui went to look for Jiang Qing, she was gone. Because she has already returned home with Xing Fengshui. At this time, Xing Fengshui's face had turned cold, and she was sitting on the sofa with her shoulders hugged, sulking. Jiang Qing sat obediently opposite her, feeling a little helpless. She had to speak shamelessly, Xiaoshui, I didn't mean to hide what happened today from you. I just didn't have the chance to tell you. Didn't you want to hide it from me? Xing Fengshui looked at Jiang Qing aggrievedly, my male god is holding your hand. Chapter 19 Is he awesome? Jiang Qing felt that it was better to suffer a short pain than a long one. Xing Fengshui was her best friend and she couldn't hide it from her any longer. Jiang Qing swallowed, paused, looked into Xing Fengshui's peach blossom eyes, and took a deep breath. Actually, I slept with him. What? She screamed and almost blew the roof off. Jiang Qing gritted her teeth and stretched her head towards her. You can hit me, vent your anger however you want. Xing Fengshui pushed her away. He was so angry that his head was smoking and he looked like he was going to faint at any minute. Jiang Qing, you little slut. You slept with my idol. I'm going to fight you to the death. As he spoke, Xing Fengshui pulled Jiang Qing's white arm over and bit it again. Her bite didn't hurt, but she was definitely angry. Jiang Qing didn't hide, and said calmly, you can beat me or scold me if you want. Xing Fengshui let her go and was about to cry, feeling very aggrieved. Why? Why did it have to be you? It's a long story. Jiang Qing sighed. Xing Fengshui retained her last bit of sanity and listened to her story from beginning to end. There were several times when she wanted to kick her out. Jiang Qing finished her talk, took a sip of water, looked at the silent Xing Fengshui, licked the corner of her mouth, and said, if you are really angry, you can hold me tonight and pretend that you have slept with him too. Get out. Xing Fengshui cursed. She pouted her lips, but in the end, out of curiosity, she asked, what methods did you use to make the abstinent iceberg sleep with you again and again? Although you are good looking, I am not bad either. Xing Fengshui was indignant. Jiang Qing frowned, thought about it again, and then asked with disapproval, Lu Xunhuan abstains from sex. Of course, Xing Fengshui said proudly, our second master is a 1,000-year-old ice man, and he doesn't like women. Jiang Qing's mind flashed with Lu Xunhuan's insatiable and greedy eyes. It was simply unbelievable. Are they sure they are talking about the same person? Xing Fengshui suddenly thought of something, frowned suspiciously, looked at Jiang Qing and asked, that's not right, I remember that Mr. Lu has a white moonlight in his heart, how could he sleep with you? Jiang Qing remained calm and thought to herself, so that's how it is. Tell me. Xing Fengshui glared at Jiang Qing cunningly, are you doing this for the immense wealth of the Lu group? Jiang Qing snorted coldly, his wealth is his, what does it have to do with me? So you know nothing about my idol? You're such a person, yet you slept with my idol. Xing Fengshui curled her lips, speechless. 2/3 of the Lu family's assets were earned by Lu Xunhuan after he returned to China. His capital spans black, white and grey. He is famous for his military exploits. With a stomp of his feet, he can shake the entire Haicheng. My male god will be the new head of the Lu group, a wealthy family among wealthy families. Jiang Qing first marveled at Xing Fengshui's eloquence. She was indeed a gold medal anchor who spoke in her own way. In addition, she also suddenly realized why Lu Xunhuan was so crazy. Because he is too rich, he is crazy. Xing Fengshui became even more angry when she saw Jiang Qing's indifferent reaction. Don't tell me that you slept with my idol just for his godlike looks. Just take that as it is. She yawned. After all, she didn't want to mention the matter of being his lover. No. You're making me even angrier. That is the beauty I can only admire from afar. How can you desecrate her so easily up close? Jiang Qing. Just when Xing Fengshui was going crazy, Jiang Qing couldn't resist the sleepiness and was about to fall asleep. She was indeed very tired and needed to rest. Just when she couldn't lift her eyelids anymore, Xing Fengshui beside her suddenly crawled over and asked her, although, I still want to know, is my male god good in that aspect? Chapter 20 Be careful of your original wife. Jiang Qing turned her head, her eyes sparkling. Sheng Fengshua's cheeks flushed and she was in a dilemma. She was curious, but also afraid that she would be further hurt by hearing it. No matter how powerful her male idol is, it is a blow to her. Jiang Qing saw through her best friend's thoughts. Just as she was about to speak, she immediately covered her mouth and said, "Don't say it, don't say it." Jiang Qing took Sheng Fengshua's hand away and asked with a smile, "Don't you want to know?" Sheng Fengshua shook her head desperately, "Don't tell me, I don't want to hear it." Har har. Jiang Qing laughed out loud. Sheng Fengshua was so angry that she wanted to jump up and down, so she went to pull Jiang Qing, and the two of them started fighting together. Soon, they both started to giggle and couldn't stop. After coaxing Sheng Fengshua, Jiang Qing told her about the trouble she had gotten into. "Why didn't you say so earlier?" Sheng Fengshua was anxious. "It's not too late to tell you now." Jiang Qing didn't want to spoil the fun. Sheng Fengshua was worried at first, but then she looked at Jiang Qing firmly and said, "Don't worry, my boyfriend can help you solve all the problems. He will definitely make you feel safe." So far, that's it. Sheng Fengshua frowned and analyzed, "Who did you offend?" Jiang Qing answered truthfully, "The truck driver who hit me was said to be drunk at the time." Sheng Fengshua blinked, the corner of his mouth twitched. Who would believe this? There must be someone behind this. Jiang Qing did not comment. "It is said that he is from Tanlang Group." Sheng Fengshua slapped her thigh, "So it's Lu Tanlang and the people around him who want to harm you." But she felt something was wrong, so she shook her head. "No, you didn't offend him." "Is that so?" Sheng Fengshua and Jiang Qing looked at each other and suddenly thought of something. Could it be his wife who did it? Jiang Qing's face was calm. "That's possible. It's very possible." Sheng Fengshua said firmly, "Who is Fang Chuanxia?" "A strong woman in Haicheng, an entrepreneurial expert, and a mentor to young people. And I heard that she has an iron fist and is very ruthless." Jiang Qing sneered. "Lu Tanlang's wife is Fang Chuanxia." "Yes." Sheng Fengshua answered naturally. Jiang Qing nodded, her eyes darkening a little. Sheng Fengshua was nervous. "If that's the case, you'd better be careful of Jiang Qing. That woman is not easy to mess with. How could she not realize the danger?" She had already thought of Sheng Fengshua's reminder. There must be a powerful person behind the scenes who suppressed this matter and suppressed it tightly. And what's more, coincidentally, the person who drugged her that night had some inexplicable connection with Lu Tanlang and Fang Chuanxia. It was probably their assistant Meng Ying who did it. It's hard not to speculate. Sheng Fengshua casually took out a facial mask from the refrigerator and gave it to her. "Fang Chuanxia is my sister-in-law." Sister-in-law? A strong underworld atmosphere. Jiang Qing took the facial mask from her hand, washed her face, and came back to apply it. The two of them lay quietly on the bed. Sheng Fengshua talked about it. "My sister-in-law really enjoys being portrayed as a caring female entrepreneur. She often packages herself as a philanthropic businesswoman, which is far more glamorous than a celebrity." Are she and Lu Tanlang on good terms? When Sheng Fengshua heard Jiang Qing ask this, she turned around and looked at her carefully. "Don't tell me you are interested in Lu Tanlang." Jiang Qing closed her eyes and said helplessly, "Where did you get the idea from?" Sheng Fengshua frowned. "If I find out that you cheated on my boyfriend, I won't forgive you even if you're my best friend." Afterwards, the girl fell into a state of infatuated raving again, recalling that Lu Xunhuan didn't even look at her at the charity dinner. She was really sad. Jiang Qing was not disturbed. Her mind was full of thoughts about Fang Chuanxia, connecting all the recent events together, and probably she had come up with another plan when her last one failed, so she was going to hire someone to kill her. Thinking of this, Jiang Qing broke out in a cold sweat. "By the way, Xiaoxue, Lu Xunhuan said that I can register as a live streamer in your company and open an account for beauty and plastic surgery." Jiang Qing suddenly realized that frequently exposing herself to the public was the best way to protect herself. Sheng Fengshua looked at Jiang Qing with a surprised expression. "Qinger, you finally got it. I tried so hard to get you to make money by live streaming, but you refused. Sigh, the power of love is so great." The power of love. Does her relationship with Lu Xunhuan have anything to do with love? Jiang Qing pulled the corner of her mouth. "Help me, okay. Of course, come, I'll help you register an account now." After some operations, Jiang Qing opened the account and did some simple packaging and maintenance. "My live broadcast time is always in the early morning recently. I will introduce another anchor to take you. You can start the broadcast at 7:30 every day. Xunhuan helped Jiang Qing arrange everything clearly. Jiang Qing looked at her with a bit of admiration. Xunhuan didn't say anything, then stared at Jiang Qing's eyes for a long while. What's wrong? Jiang Qing's smile gradually froze on her face. Xunhuan took a deep breath, looked at Jiang Qing with great distress and said, "Perhaps, my male god is a gift from God to make up for you." Fatalism. Jiang Qing felt sad and her eyes were a little sore, but a smile still appeared at the corner of her mouth. There was a warm and soft hand on her head, and Xunhuan's eyes were warm. That's what you deserve. Otherwise, my Qinger would have suffered too much. Jiang Qing smiled lightly. She couldn't stay here and continue to be sentimental with her. She was about to cry. She reached out and patted Xunhuan. Okay, I should go now. I have to go to work tomorrow. Xunhuan didn't stay either. This was her best friend and the most important bond in her life. When Jiang Qing left Xunhuan's house, a cool breeze blew into her trouser legs, making her feel chilly. She wrapped her clothes tightly around her and quickened her pace. Chapter 21, Don't Keep Idle People. After graduating from medical university, Jiang Qing stayed in the hospital as an intern, but the director has not yet given her a permanent position. But all the dirty and hard work still falls on young interns like them. Jiang Qing was on vacation a few days ago. As soon as she returned to the department, the intern nurse Jinling winked at her. What's wrong? Jiang Qing asked in a low voice. Jinling glanced upstairs cautiously. The director is furious, and Dr. Liu has reported you for something bad. You better be careful. Dr. Liu is Liu Baihui, Jiang Qing's direct supervisor. He has average medical skills and is an associate chief physician. He has an ambiguous relationship with the department director, Wang Jian. Liu Baihui has more than a dozen young interns, and the one she dislikes the most is Jiang Qing, because she looks coquettish and doesn't look like a doctor. Thank you, Jinling. Jiang Qing gritted her teeth and quickly went upstairs to face the storm. As soon as I arrived at the director's office, I heard Liu Baihui and the director complaining, Jiang Qing is busier than I am all day, and I can hardly see her. This kind of work attitude is not suitable for being a doctor. The director was silent for a while, and said helplessly, Jiang Qing has a good education and good skills, but you have been dragging your feet and not making her a regular employee. The department is so busy, if you let her go, who will do their work? Director Wang Jian is a nationally renowned plastic surgery expert. He is over 50 years old, gentle and cautious, but he is always surrounded by young female doctors. Seeing Wang Jian helping Jiang Qing, Liu Baihui was so angry that she put away her aggressive attitude and acted like a spoiled child. Director, who among us doesn't work? Do you want to keep her because she's pretty? Wang Jian quickly comforted Liu Baihui. How could that be? I like mature and charming people, like you Tilder. You are bad Tilder. The two of them were being so affectionate, completely ignoring the fact that they were still in the hospital office. Jiang Qing took a deep breath. She was well aware of the unspoken rules in the workplace. When she was a graduate student, her tutor had expressed this idea to her, but Jiang Qing disagreed and the tutor did not force her. Jiang Qing knocked on the door gently. Director, I'm Jiang Qing. Can I come in? After a while, Wang Jian's voice sounded, come in. As soon as Jiang Qing entered, the two men sat upright, pretending to be serious. As soon as Liu Baihui saw her coming, she glared at her to death. Wang Jian spoke first, Jiang Qing, we don't keep idle people in our department. Director, what do you mean by that? Jiang Qing had already guessed that the director would say this, and that he was going to chase her away. You have to find a way to generate income for the department so that you can stay. You know there are a lot of interns in the department now. Some are the daughters of hospital leaders, and some are the grandsons of medical tycoons. If you can make a contribution to the department, I will certainly consider making you a full-time employee. Director, you don't have to say more. I understand. I'll go back and think about how to generate income for the department. Jiang Qing has no money and no background. She has worked hard for so many years and doesn't want to lose her job opportunity, so she can only lie low for the time being. Liu Baihui looked at her proudly, hugged her shoulders, and asked directly, Jiang Qing, have you died in the past 2 days? The cases in the ward are piled up like a mountain. Jiang Qing looked at her directly, neither servile nor overbearing. I follow up on the cases I'm responsible for every day. As for other doctors' cases, I have no right to interfere. Also, I'm on vacation recently because something happened at home. I've asked you for leave, and the administrative department has a record of my leave. The cases of other doctors that Jiang Qing mentioned were Liu Baihui's patient medical records, which Jiang Qing was often required to write. Liu Baihui frowned, twisting her already cold face into a hateful one. There are a lot of things going on at home, why not resign and go home to deal with them with peace of mind? After saying that, she left Wang Jian without even turning her head. Nothing else, I'm leaving first. I have 2 more breast augmentation surgeries waiting for me this afternoon. You go ahead and do your work, Baihui. Wang Jian replied, his eyes fixed on Jiang Qing, and his tone was official. Xiao Jiang, although you are a top student, you must also make corresponding contributions to our hospital, otherwise it will be hard to say whether you will pass the assessment this time. Jiang Qing knew that the director's only means of pooing her was the year-end assessment, which was related to whether she could become a real doctor. Director Wang, can I not be Director Liu's assistant? Can you take me with you? She wanted to try to fight for it. Wang Jian showed an embarrassment, and his eyes darkened behind his glasses. I rarely perform surgeries now, and I almost never take students, you know. This was a rejection, and it was also within Jiang Qing's expectations. She showed regret on her face, but she understood it very well in her heart. However, Wang Jian paused, his eyes becoming more serious. Go back and think about whether you have any other resources that can help Corey. In fact, you are good looking and have a good figure, which is your asset. Jiang Qing paused for a moment and nodded. Jiang Qing had been dragged by Wang Jian to dinner with a medical equipment supplier before, and was asked to drink a cup of wine together with the supplier. Jiang Qing got angry on the spot, leaving Wang Jian embarrassed. She thought the matter could be settled, but Wang Jian said that he wanted to have a deeper relationship with her and that he liked women with hot tempers like her. Memories flashed through her mind, and Jiang Qing took a deep breath. I'm going out first. Back in the ward doctor's office, Jin Ling walked in with Xinzi, a young girl from the publicity department. A few months ago, the hospital called on doctors to do live broadcasts to talk about their professionalism and establish the hospital's image. But the doctors are so busy every day that no one wants to get involved in this matter. Jin Ling and Xinzi were so anxious that they ran into obstacles everywhere. Jiang Qing waved at them and asked them to come over. How about an intern? Chapter 22. The live broadcast exploded. Jiang Qing took the initiative to accept a live broadcast task, which temporarily saved Jin Ling and Xinzi's lives. Xinzi registered a platform account for Jiang Qing and found out that she already had an account. She then taught her how to shoot videos and how to use the live broadcast function. Jiang Qing had already made other plans in her mind. Don't worry, I'll run it myself. Jin Ling looked at Jiang Qing with an embarrassed expression, and seemed to be hesitant to speak. Just tell me what's the matter. Jiang Qing could see that her expression was not right. Jin Ling leaned over to her ear and said, we are not professional in live streaming. The hospital has strict requirements. Only when there are more than 100,000 fans can it be considered an achievement. Then she sighed, you try anyway, it's probably in vain. Don't worry. Jiang Qing smiled at her confidently and was busy writing in the medical record in her hand. After get off work, she called Xunhuan. Xiaoxue, I'm going to start a live broadcast, can you help me? Okay, come to my company to find me. Jiang Qing reminded, oh, yes, it was Xunhuan who instructed it. Xunhuan sneered, I know. Would I not help without the male god's instruction? Jiang Qing smiled, it's just official business, and it's legitimate. It was already 10 o'clock in the evening when Jiang Qing arrived at Huafeng Entertainment Group. The modern office building is brightly lit, and all the people coming in and out are good-looking young people. This is in stark contrast to Jiang Qing's workplace. Every floor of Huafeng Entertainment gives people a sense of relaxation and fashion, and even makes people have a strong urge to stay here to work. Jiang Qing was a little surprised by this feeling. After all, she thought that a crazy and critical boss like Xunhuan would give his subordinates a feeling of suffocation. Unexpectedly, the fact was just the opposite. She waited for Xunhuan in the rest area for a long time. Finally, Xunhuan called and said that there was a live broadcast and she wanted to make a guest appearance, so she handed Jiang Qing over to another anchor Xiaoquan. Xiaoquan didn't let Jiang Qing wait too long, she came down to find Jiang Qing soon. "Hello, are you Sister Jiang Qing? Sister Xue asked me to come and see you." Jiang Qing looked up at Xiaoquan, who was wearing a new Chinese-style outfit with 2 buns on her head. She looked very cute, like a doll in a New Year picture. She quickly stood up, smiled and nodded, "It's me." Xiaoquan stretched out her hand, held hers and walked away. "Then come with me, I'll help you find a live broadcast room." Xiaoquan dresses like a teenager, but the lines on her face are quite obvious. In the elevator, Xiaoquan looked at Jiang Qing carefully, and then asked, "Sister Jiang Qing, are you the beautiful woman who stood next to the second master at the dinner that day?" Jiang Qing didn't deny it and smiled awkwardly. A hint of coldness flashed across Xiaoquan's eyes. Jiang Qing thought she had seen it wrong and didn't take it seriously. Following her into a live broadcast room, Xiaoquan reached out and pressed the switch on the wall. "Sister, please sit down. I'll help you with the rest." Xiaoquan was very attentive. Jiang Qing thought it was because of second master. In half an hour, Xiaoquan debugged the live broadcast equipment and taught Jiang Qing the process and key points in detail. Finally, Xiaoquan squatted next to Jiang Qing and discussed the content of the live broadcast with her. "Sister, you can't just talk about theoretical knowledge dryly, no one will listen to it." Jiang Qing nodded. "What should we do then?" Xiaoquan rolled her eyes and pulled out a photo of a beautiful woman from her phone. "Sister, if you talk about a celebrity's face, maybe it will attract traffic. Won't that infringe on the right of portraiture?" Xiaoquan shook his head decisively. "You have to believe in the strength of Huafeng Entertainment. Many anchors say this, you believe me? Or I should start the live broadcast tomorrow." Jiang Qing didn't quite trust the woman in front of her, and she wanted to hear Xing Fengshue's opinion again. "Sister Jiang Qing, why don't you trust me? Why don't we just not use the celebrity's face and just use the code name?" Jiang Qing thought this was feasible and agreed. Xiaoquan then called in the other members of the live broadcast team and prepared to start the live broadcast after 15 minutes. Jiang Qing was a little nervous at first. After all, it was her first time facing the camera. There was not much traffic in the live broadcast room at the beginning, so Jiang Qing slowly relaxed. It wasn't until a guy with the online name Dark Knight Xunhuan sent 10 rockets in a row that the live broadcast room became lively. "Thanks for the gift, Big Brother Bang." Xiaoquan helped Jiang Qing liven up the atmosphere without showing his face. Jiang Qing then repeated the sentence. Xiaoquan bared his teeth at Jiang Qing and whispered, "Perform a little show to show your gratitude." Jiang Qing was instantly in trouble. She was not very good at singing or dancing, and in the end it was some special effects in the live broadcast room that saved her. Why can female stars' faces suddenly regain their youth after more than 10 years? Why do some people look different than before even though they didn't have any plastic surgery? Their host is a plastic surgery intern with a medical qualification, and he will talk to you about microplastic surgery. Jiang Qing's down-to-earth self-introduction immediately gained her a lot of fans in the live broadcast room. Xiaoquan was a little shocked when he saw the comments. "Wow, so many people praised Sister Jiang Qing for being beautiful and cool, and she has a promising future." The number of viewers in the live broadcast room soon exceeded 10,000, and continued to soar. Jiang Qing was concentrating on analyzing plastic surgery techniques, but soon, a large number of black fans flooded into the live broadcast room. "What qualifications does the anchor trainee have to say about our sister?" "Host, shut up. You are not worthy of commenting on my sister." Reported. Chapter 23 delivered to your door. It was the first time that Jiang Qing had seen such a scene of being attacked and scolded by thousands of people. She couldn't handle it, and even if she didn't respond, she would be warned of crazy risks. In the end, the live broadcast lasted for about half an hour before being forced to shut down. Xiaoquan looked at Jiang Qing with a helpless expression. "Sister Jiang Qing, you were doing a good job at first, but why did you touch on the stars so spot later? His fans are not happy." "My question?" Jiang Qing was surprised. "I heard you didn't mention the celebrity's name." Xiaoquan sighed and watched the playback. "But some fans directly commented on your background and swiped the celebrity's photo." Xiaoquan showed the picture to Jiang Qing, with the caption on it, "The anchor is a group of internet trolls hired by the rival company, deliberately slandering Yuanshina." Yuanshina? Jiang Qing doesn't usually pay attention to celebrities, so she is not familiar with this person. Xiaoquan saw this and spoke meaningfully. Sister Jiang Qing, Yuan Shiner is a popular young actress and a popular first-tier star. Today, we can be regarded as taking advantage of her traffic. Jiang Qing was a little confused. She only blamed herself for being overconfident and impulsive. She should have done some homework before the live broadcast. So far, she could not have predicted the effects of this incident, and she did not like the feeling that she could not control the development of events. Sister, you're on the trending search. Xiaoquan excitedly showed Jiang Qing the hot search term, which said that plastic surgeons were trying to scam traffic. Yuan Shiner's team posted a statement that she did not have plastic surgery. Jiang Qing couldn't believe that a live broadcast could cause such a big commotion. Boom boom. Jiang Qing. It was Xing Fengxue's voice. She pushed the door open, looking anxious. When Xiaoquan saw Xing Fengxue coming, he immediately became nervous. Xing Fengxue put her hands on her waist, pointed at the small circle, and asked, "You did this on purpose, didn't you? You let my best friend get exposed online by rubbing against Yuan Shiner? What were you thinking?" "I didn't, I just told Sister Jiang Qing in a vague way, but who knew netizens would still be able to tell that it was Yuan Shiner who was being talked about?" Xiaoquan explained timidly. Xing Fengxue looked back at Jiang Qing. "Do you know who Yuan Shiner is?" "Jiang Qing, I just realized she's a top star." Xing Fengxue shook her head and moved closer to her. "My male god's white moonlight." Jiang Qing. Xing Fengxue then glared at Xiaoquan. "You are jealous of my best friend and deliberately let her touch the boss by Yueguan, right?" Xiaoquan waved her hands repeatedly. "No, Sister Xue, you misunderstood me." Xing Fengxue raised her hand to hit him. "Misunderstanding what the hell? Stop playing innocent, you idiot bitch." Jiang Qing did not stop her. She was thinking about how to deal with this incident. If it brought negative impact to their hospital, not to mention getting a permanent job, she might even be asked to pack up and leave. Xing Fengxue drove Xiaoquan and everyone else out, then lowered her voice, looked at Jiang Qing nervously and said, "The PR department has already contacted Yuan Shiner's agent, and has also come up with a crisis PR plan." Jiang Qing frowned slightly. "I only care about whether it will bring bad reputation to the hospital. You only care about yourself." The door suddenly opened from the outside, and a tall figure appeared in front of him. Xunhuan walked in, followed by Fengxue. When Xing Fengxue saw her idol, she was so nervous that she couldn't say a word. Jiang Qing was relatively calm, but also somewhat nervous. Xunhuan strode to Jiang Qing and looked down at her. The corners of his narrow eyes were distant, as if he looked Jiang Qing up and down. He said coldly, "Are you really an anchor?" Jiang Qing took a step back, her expression very serious, her body very straight. She bowed respectfully to the man in front of her, and said in a clear and loud voice, "I'm sorry to trouble you." Xing Fengxue was stunned, watching from the side, wondering what was going on. Xunhuan slowly reached out his hand, lightly pinched her chin with his long fingers, and forced her to look at his eyebrows. Jiang Qing's breathing paused slightly. The atmosphere suddenly became ambiguous and subtle. Xing Fengxue opened her eyes wide and immediately observed the sweet and stimulating hormonal collision between the two people. "Wow! Are you going to kiss Xiao Qing?" Xing Fengxue was so excited that she couldn't express it in words, but she was taken out by Fengxue, the unromantic man. "Wait a moment." She wanted to struggle, but Fengxue's indifference did not allow her to stay for another second. Only Xunhuan and Jiang Qing were left in the room. Jiang Qing couldn't help but roll her throat. "Tell me, what trouble have you caused me?" Xunhuan's wolf eyes were evil and his face was stern. "I didn't mean to offend Yuan Shiner, please forgive me," Jiang Qing explained. She remained calm and composed. Her only hope was to earn enough money and return it to Xunhuan as soon as possible. Xunhuan was very smart and immediately understood what Jiang Qing wanted to say. "Whether you are trying to scam Yuan Shiner or not, why do you want me to forgive you?" he asked her directly. Jiang Qing sneered in her heart, "If she wasn't your white moonlight, it would be none of my business. Maybe this is quite troublesome." She shrugged helplessly. In view of her cold reaction, Xunhuan decided to quickly make her hot-headed. So he waved his hand and cleared away all the items on the table. Then he lifted the woman in front of him and pushed her onto the table. The tall body pressed down. "You are here today for door-to-door service." Chapter 24 Live Telephone Broadcast. The light above was too bright, and Jiang Qing narrowed her beautiful fox eyes slightly. Lu Xunhuan stood between her legs, with his palms covering her hips and legs. The eyes are ambiguous and the expression is weird. The unique smoky woody scent on his body aggressively occupied Jiang Qing's entire breath. She was a little afraid to look at him, and her face turned red to her neck. "I'm not in a good mood today." She spoke decisively. Lu Xunhuan refused to let her go. He lowered his eyes to look at her, his double eyelids were obvious. "Didn't you say I could refuse?" Jiang Qing's reminder was full of provocation and disappointment to Lu Xunhuan at this moment. Lu Xunhuan took a step back and said in a cold voice, "That's right. But the premise is that you have to satisfy me." Jiang Qing's pupils trembled. She had already said it was inconvenient, so how could she satisfy him? Could it be that? Sure enough, a hand suddenly grabbed her collar and lifted her down. Jiang Qing's throat tightened and she prostrated herself at the man's feet without any dignity. This posture. She raised her eyes and met his. The man was silent, but his ruthless eyes said it all. "We are all adults, there is no need to explain this." Jiang Qing endured the huge psychological pressure and slowly reached out to find his zipper. This was her first time doing this and she was very unskilled, with her fingertips trembling slightly. At this moment, her cell phone on the table began to vibrate. A glimmer of hope for rescue ignited in her heart, and she asked softly, "Shall I answer the phone?" Lu Xunhuan nodded. She immediately stood up to answer the phone. "Hello, how are you?" "It's me." A sincere male voice came from the phone. Jiang Qing couldn't tell who it was, but Lu Xunhuan on the sofa recognized it instantly. It was Lu Tanlang. He stood up and walked behind Jiang Qing to confirm that the person calling was Lu Tanlang. "I'm Lu Tanlang. I just saw you live streaming. Dark Knight Joy is me." Lu Tanlang introduced himself. Jiang Qing was stunned when she heard this. The number one guy on the list. "It's actually Lu Tanlang? I'm sorry to have cost you so much." Jiang Qing was a little embarrassed and didn't know what to say. The next second, Lu Xunhuan turned Jiang Qing's face around and kissed her directly. Ms. Jiang. Are you listening? Hello." No matter what Lu Tanlang asked, Jiang Qing had no way of answering. She bit her lips hard to prevent herself from making any shameful sounds. I don't know how much time had passed, but Lu Xunhuan still felt unsatisfied. Jiang Qing slumped on the sofa, her eyes narrowed into slits like a cat's. The man straightened his clothes as if nothing had happened. "Are you satisfied today, second master?" she asked deliberately, with a teasing smile on her face. The man was silent for a moment, looking at her, and spoke word by word, "I am very satisfied." Jiang Qing sneered, as if mocking herself. "Can you walk? Do you need me to carry you?" He walked up to her, looked down at her and asked. Jiang Qing looked up at him. The bright light fell on his tall nose, making him look three-dimensional and noble. "You act like I'm bullying you," he said casually, bending down as if he really wanted to pick her up. Jiang Qing quickly stood up and accidentally bumped into his broad arms. Her first reaction was to escape. But the body was already hugged tightly. "Next time, I will tell you with my actual actions whether I am satisfied or not." His voice rang in her ears, causing shivers to run down her skin. She had a strong reaction to him since she didn't know when. When the two came out of the live broadcast room, there were not many people in the company. But Xingfengxue's car was still waiting in the parking lot. Only after watching Jiang Qing get into Lu Xunhuan's car did she feel relieved. Xingfengxue felt uneasy as she scrolled through the super chats of Yuanshina and Lu Xunhuan on her phone. Yuanshina and Lu Xunhuan have a CP called Huanxin CP. The group is interpreting with pictures and texts that this time Lu Xunhuan sent people to live broadcast to take advantage of Yuanshina's popularity because he missed Yuanshina who was far away overseas too much, so he used this method to call out to Yuanshina, asking her to return home quickly. Lu Xunhuan and Yuanshina were childhood sweethearts from a wealthy family. They had been engaged since they were young, but Shina pursued her career and ruthlessly abandoned the cold and domineering boss. The more she was tortured, the sweeter it became. Xingfengxue looked at the screen full of excessive interpretations and couldn't help but sigh, while at the same time worrying about her best friend. Jiang Qing is such a generous girl. Even when faced with such a powerful rival in love, she still acted as if nothing had happened. Chapter 25 Jiang Qing becomes popular. Jiang Qing got into Lu Xunhuan's car. Fengshe, who was driving the car in front, consciously raised the baffle of the rear compartment. Jiang Qing's cat eyes narrowed slightly. Xunhuan said in a deep voice, "Put it down." "Yes, boss." Fengshe quickly lowered the partition. Jiang Qing glanced at the driver through the rearview mirror. He really treated his boss as a stud. The atmosphere was awkward for 2 seconds before Xunhuan spoke up. "Doctor's business is bad. Are you really changing your career to become a live streamer? Is their hospital short of traffic?" Xunhuan turned his head to look at her with sharp eyes. Jiang Qing smiled and said, "I do some health science popularization in my spare time. It's purely a personal hobby." Xunhuan nodded and smiled faintly, but he quickly retracted his smile. His brows and eyes became even colder than before. "Why don't you broadcast your personal hobby at home, but come to my place to broadcast it?" Jiang Qing directly admitted, "There's nothing we can do. Huafeng Entertainment is the traffic king." The next second, her chin was pinched by the man. He leaned over, stared at her, and asked in a low voice, "Do you need money?" Of course, part of Jiang Qing's motivation was to make money and pay it back to him quickly, but the more important reason was to expose herself to the public eye to protect her own safety. But no matter which reason it is, it will make the big devil unhappy. Jiang Qing shook her head knowingly, laughed, and reached out to move his hand away. "How could that be? What you gave me is enough to spend." Xunhuan's eyes darkened. He sat back in his seat, closed his eyes slightly, and didn't say another word until she got off the bus. Jiang Qing returned home, took a shower, and checked her phone. Today was still a fruitful day. She tried being a host for the first time. Although there are many areas that need improvement, she finally took the first step. Until she accidentally opened the super topic and saw the fans of Wanxin CP interacting enthusiastically. Only then did I realize that the rumors about Yuanshina and Xunhuan might really be about something ambiguous. Jiang Qing drank a glass of milk while scrolling through the screenshots of CP's Truth. Soon, she saw a screenshot of her live broadcast, on which was written, "Huafeng Entertainment sent a medical anchor to secretly take advantage of Sister Shina's popularity, but in fact, Mr. Lu secretly confessed his love." A CP fan commented below, "It's time to use our own traffic." Then, a paparazzi posted a post, exposing the news in all seriousness. The relationship between the top star and the entertainment capital tycoon is real. When the star returns to China, she will directly live in the man's mansion. It is semi-public in the circle. As a result, Jiang Qing accidentally clicked the like button. Woke up the next day. She didn't know yet that the trending search had already exploded. The anchor of Huafeng Entertainment liked the paparazzi's big melon, indirectly admitting the relationship between Xunhuan and Yuanshina. Xunhuan was still in a bad mood when he woke up in the morning, and when he saw this ridiculous hot search, he was so angry that he wanted to tear all those guys in the public relations department, media department, and public opinion department to pieces. The most hateful thing is that the damn woman actually liked it. Does she really not care who he is in a relationship with? Or are you just here to watch the fun and enjoy the fun? No matter which one, she will die miserably this time. Xunhuan clicked on Jiang Qing's Weibo and gritted his teeth secretly. Block what? Take the money and make it a hot search for me. Yes, boss, the PR department has withdrawn. Xunhuan tried again, and sure enough, the trending search was gone. After getting up in the morning, Jiang Qing went to brush her teeth. Looking at herself in the mirror, she thought of a certain Weibo post from last night. She put her phone on the table and decided to watch it for a while. What the hell is going on in the super topic now? Everyone is collectively dejected. Netizens' favorite CP big head monster, it's over. Huafeng Entertainment's official media has issued a statement to clarify. If there are any more rumors, legal responsibility will be pursued. This big devil will personally break up the CP, and he will break it up to death. Netizen Xinshin's best reply, Xunhuan is really funny. He wanted to chase our sister but couldn't. He must be angry and embarrassed, right? A war of words broke out in the super topic, and Jiang Qing was completely confused. She didn't know how much trouble her slip of the hand had caused. She quickly tidied herself up and went to work as usual. Corey was very busy, so Jiang Qing changed into a white coat and started working. I spent the whole morning writing medical records and didn't even have a sip of water. In the afternoon, I followed Liu Baihui to see patients. Also with her was Huang Jing, an intern who had just joined the department less than a month ago. Sister, I've been so anxious lately. Wang Jing complained before Liu Baihui arrived. Jiang Qing prepared the computer's consultation program and call number system, sat on the chair next to her, looked down at the information of the patients who were coming for follow-up visits today, and said calmly, "What are you anxious about?" Wang Jing sighed, "I'm afraid that I'll end up like you, unable to get a permanent job after several years." Jiang Qing retracted her gaze and looked up at her. Wang Jing realized that she was too direct and smiled awkwardly. "I'm sorry, Jiang Qing. It's okay. Isn't your father from the National Health Commission? It's okay." She is also direct enough. Wang Jing coughed lightly to ease the embarrassment and muttered softly, "I have to rely on myself." Jiang Qing ignored her and opened a bottle of purified water and handed it to her. "Have a drink." Liu Baihui walked in arrogantly at this time. After seeing Jiang Qing, she frowned and said, "The light is too dim." Jiang Qing quickly moved away and sat nearby. Liu Baihui operated the computer for a while and said, "Are all the patients new today?" "No, Director Liu, let me show you the follow-up information." Jiang Qing quickly showed her the content she had just sorted out. Liu Baihui was annoyed. Jiang Qing still couldn't be stumped by such a tricky question. She slammed the keyboard in anger and said, "What are you looking at? I'm here to see patients. Naturally, the patient should come in and explain his condition. Call someone." As she spoke, she called in patient number 1 for the consultation. Jiang Qing sneered helplessly, knowing clearly that Liu Baihui wanted to punish her. Wang Jing silently gave Jiang Qing a thumbs up. After seeing a few patients normally, Jiang Qing discovered something was wrong. Suddenly, many young girls came to the door of the clinic, all of them poking their heads out and looking inside eagerly. Liu Baihui was very proud, thinking that she was famous and business was coming to her. "Wang Jing, go out and tell them that they need to queue up for medical consultation and not to gather at the door," Liu Baihui ordered. Wang Jing went out to organize the crowd, but was pushed back by more and more girls. Someone shouted, "Dr. Jiang! We are looking for Dr. Jiang." Chapter 26, pointing to a clear path. The noise outside the door was so loud that security had to be dispatched. Liu Baihui looked at Jiang Qing with an even more vicious look. Jiang Qing didn't dare to go out rashly, and didn't know what had happened. At this time, my best friend Xunhuan called me. She hurried to the corner to answer it. "What are you doing?" "I'm at work." "It's already so late, why are you still at work? What's going on? There are people outside my clinic." Xunhuan's voice was filled with rage. "Let me tell you, the process was too complicated. Anyway, the trouble started with that one like from you. You are too brave. You dare to eat Mr. Lu's melon in public." "What?" Jiang Qing was confused. Xunhuan continued to mutter, "It must be my idol who broke up the couple. Yuan Shina couldn't save face, so he asked someone to dig up your real identity and said you were extorting money from Yuan Shina to gain traffic." R. Xunhuan guessed correctly, this was a case of diverting trouble away. Jiang Qing is just a cannon fodder who takes the blame. What should we do then? The people at your door right now must be Yuan Shina's fans. Don't go online these few days. Those keyboard warriors should cut off their hands. Jiang Qing took a deep breath. Xunhuan finally gave her a clear path. "Ask my male god to save you. Only he can handle it. After all, he is the one who can remove the trending search in 3 minutes." The crazy fans outside were dispersed by security guards. Liu Baihui left the clinic angrily and wanted to go to the dean's office to make a scene. Jiang Qing was also helpless. Who could have thought that things would turn out like this? As expected, half an hour later, the dean called her over. Director Wang Jian was also there. Normally, interns like Jiang Qing would never see the dean, unless they stirred up a hornet's nest. Director Liu looks kind and is cheerful whenever he meets someone. The doctors in the hospital call him the smiling tiger behind his back. "Are you Jiang Qing? Sit down." "Thank you, Dean Liu." Jiang Qing sat down and saw Wang Jian, who was sitting opposite her, looking down at his phone and had no intention of caring about her at all. She took a deep breath, and decided to fight back if necessary. The bottom line was that she could not be fired. "You're famous now, you know that." Dean Liu took a sip of tea and said with a smile as he put down the teacup. Jiang Qing nodded. 15 minutes into the broadcast, the number of viewers exceeded 100,000. Their high traffic volume caused some controversy and also caused a little trouble for the hospital. Jiang Qing knew that she didn't have many opportunities to talk to the dean, so she got straight to the point. Dean Liu laughed and said, "It's not a little troublesome." Then he looked at Wang Jian and joked, "The girl you brought up is very good at talking." Wang Jian then looked up at Jiang Qing and sighed, "Actually trying to pass the buck, child's tricks, the vanity of the internet, I'm old and can't understand these." Dean Liu's eyes turned sharp when he heard this. "Why don't you make this girl a regular employee? She obviously has all the credentials." Wang Jian quickly evaded the question, "Don't ask me about this. She has a direct supervisor. I'm so busy every day, how can I care about such a trivial matter as getting a permanent job?" As Wang Jian spoke, he showed a look of disgust, implying that the dean was meddling in other people's affairs. Jiang Qing responded quickly and said, "Director Liu, I have never applied for regularization." "Why?" The dean looked at her, "Don't you want to stay in the hospital?" "Of course I do. I just want to learn more. I feel I am still inexperienced." The dean nodded with satisfaction. Jiang Qing is a very sensible girl. As for the application, you should submit it yourself. "Okay, Dean. I asked you to come here this time mainly to let you clarify the caliber and direction of your future live broadcasts. Don't try to take advantage of the traffic of celebrities. We doctors have our own traffic, right?" Dean Liu's words seemed to be sincere, but in fact they were just hegemonic notices. Jiang Qing listened silently. The dean continued, "As for you, please don't reveal our hospital's information in your live broadcast name or introduction. I think it would be better if you wrote that you are a student of plastic surgery. First, it fits your current identity. Second, you look so young, so you should be more popular with young people. It is obvious what this means." The dean didn't want Jiang Qing to have anything to do with the hospital. So this live broadcast successfully attracted traffic and attention to the hospital. Was it a free ride? Jiang Qing's throat rolled slightly, her eyes darkened slightly, and she suppressed the turbid air in her heart without making a sound. He said calmly, "Director Liu, your strategy will benefit me for the rest of my life. I know how to deal with those crazy haters. Nothing else, I'll go out and write the medical records first." She stood up, bowed, and was about to leave. I hadn't taken 2 steps when the dean's voice rang out from behind me, "Who's that?" "Wait a minute." Jiang Qing responded and turned around. The dean glanced at Wang Jian, who also frowned and looked at her. The dean asked, "What's this little black powder you mentioned?" Jiang Qing smiled calmly, "That's a long story. As long as I don't mention our hospital, it won't cause any big trouble. Come here and tell the dean in detail." Wang Jian raised his hand to call Jiang Qing over, and even stood up to give up his seat, as if he was afraid that Jiang Qing would run away. Jiang Qing's beautiful eyes lit up, thinking that things were going according to her plan. Jiang Qing sat down and calmly told the dean about the crazy behavior of the black fans. "At present, they have found out my phone number." The dean then realized the seriousness of the matter, so, it's not a coincidence that they caused trouble outside Liu Baihui's clinic. Wang Jian also became nervous and pointed at Jiang Qing, "Why didn't you report before doing the live broadcast? Can you afford to take responsibility for any adverse effects on the hospital?" Jiang Qing looked aggrieved, but confident. "You are so busy, and I am obviously disturbing you by reporting such a small matter as doing a live broadcast. Besides, I am an intern, so can't I just change my introduction to sever my relationship with the hospital?" As soon as these words were spoken, the 2 highly respected medical masters almost blushed. These were the opinions they had just expressed, and now they were firmly grasped by a young intern. Now that Jiang Qing's true identity has been exposed, if a good thing is investigated, Jiang Qing has not been able to get a full-time position in the department after working for many years. If the matter ferments, maybe even the dean will be investigated. So Dean Liu had to play his part to the end. He cleared his throat, changed the subject, and spoke earnestly, "Xiao Jiang, you think too simply. This shows that the hospital doesn't care about you enough and doesn't educate you enough. When you go back, submit an application for regularization. I will personally approve it. We, as leaders, are so busy that we neglect the ideological improvement of young comrades. How can that work?" "Thank you, Dean." Jiang Qing smiled. The dean shook his head and showed a caring face of an elder. I think there are still some minor problems with your live broadcast, but you can make changes while it's still live. Just write the name of our hospital. We provide popular science to the people, and I don't believe there will be any mistakes. We must fight this kind of uncivilized behavior on the internet to the end. Wang Jian also lowered his head and took a deep breath. The dean is right. Go back and ask your assistant, Dr. Liu Baihui, to write me a medical report. The dean frowned, bringing the matter to a close. I understand. Wang Jian was helpless. Jiang Qing secretly felt proud in her heart. She had fought another great comeback. Chapter 27. Second Master, Save Me. Although Jiang Qing temporarily stabilized the situation in the hospital, he was also promoted to a regular employee after an unexpected turn of events. But public opinion from outside is still fermenting. If she really causes a bad influence on the hospital, given Dean Liu's personality, expelling her would be easier than chasing away a fly. So she still couldn't let her guard down. At a time like this, a wise man would be a wise man. She decided to listen to Xing Fengshue's advice and seek help from Lu Xunhuan. During lunch break, she sent a WeChat message to Lu Xunhuan, Second Master, save me pitiful expression. 10 minutes later. Lu Xunhuan's 15-second voice message. When Jiang Qing sees someone sending her a voice message, she usually converts it into text. But if Lu Xunhuan sent it, she would quietly put it in her ear. His voice is extremely magnetic. She had to admit that every time she heard his voice, she felt her heart beat slightly faster. You're quite brave, do you still need me to help you? Jiang Qing quickly typed a line of words, sorry about that matter, my hand slipped. As Lu Xunhuan read this explanation, the gloomy clouds in his eyes instantly dissipated. I thought she was finally on the right track, but then I got another straightforward message. Jiang Qing, if I can only negotiate a deal with Second Master, can you help me suppress the negative public opinion and I will pay you some money next time I live stream? Then, there was no news from Lu Xunhuan. It was not until before getting off work that Jiang Qing finally received a not too long voice message from Lu Xunhuan. She had a bad feeling in her heart and advised herself to put it into words. But because there was no one in the clinic and she was very curious, she put the phone to her ear for some reason. A sexy and wild voice sounded, I can save you, but my medicine is very strong. Jiang Qing felt her ears turn red just by hearing his ambiguous words. Pretending not to understand, he calmly replied, That's settled, thank you, master. Lu Xunhuan, if you are not afraid of dying in my bed, then come. Jiang Qing. After finally finishing the entire medical record book, Jiang Qing prepared to go off work. She thought that Lu Xunhuan had just said a few dirty words and would not take action so quickly. However, when she went out, she was dazzled by the bright red lights of a Ferrari. The person driving the car was Lu Xunhuan. The unruly hairstyle and evil eyes behind the car window reminded her that he was going crazy again tonight. Jiang Qing's first reaction was, if it doesn't work, just run away. But reason still prevailed, and calmness dominated her thoughts. The car door was opened and Jiang Qing got in like a puppet. Lu Xunhuan raised the corner of his mouth, drove away suddenly, and left in a cloud of dust. Jiang Qing leaned back due to inertia, her palms were full of sweat, and she felt like she was in a stolen car. Feelings of regret swept through her mind wildly. The car was going so fast that Jiang Qing felt the pressure in her ears soaring, but the man beside her was enjoying this pleasure very much. His narrow eyes narrowed slightly, his hair on his forehead was raised, and his angular face in the dark night had an inexplicable sense of youth. He was wild and unruly, as if he could do anything without regard for the consequences. Slower. While he was waiting for the signal, Jiang Qing finally uttered two words. Lu Xunhuan tilted his head to look at her, don't you like this kind of rhythm? Before she could finish her words, the car rushed out angrily again. In less than 10 minutes, the two arrived at a villa hotel in the wealthy area. Jiang Qing was a little surprised that Lu Xunhuan didn't go home but took her to a hotel to get a room. She remained calm, but still felt nervous as she got into the elevator that went directly to the top floor. Lu Xunhuan stared down at her, his eyes wild and undisguised. Jiang Qing followed Lu Xunhuan to the door of the suite, and Lu Xunhuan actually opened the door with his fingerprint. He went in and turned on the light, and Jiang Qing followed him. She thought that as soon as she entered, she would be pounced on by the man like a hungry tiger, but this time it didn't happen. Lu Xunhuan sat on the bed, tugged at his tie, and looked at her. Jiang Qing stood at the door, feeling a little embarrassed. To be honest, this wasn't the first time this had happened, but for some reason, the atmosphere in the room was particularly tense. The man said nothing. He looked at Jiang Qing's curvy figure and her lovely and pitiful face, and suddenly smiled. Jiang Qing was a little surprised. She put her bag in the closet. She didn't know what topic to talk about for a moment and walked straight to the phone in the room. "Call the front desk," Xunhuan asked. "Well, I'm going to get some disposable items." Jiang Qing paid close attention to these. "Didn't you see that I came in using fingerprints?" Xunhuan said indifferently, "This hotel is owned by Huafeng Entertainment, and I am the only one who can use this suite." Jiang Qing nodded. No wonder she felt that the room didn't look like a hotel when she first came in. The grey and black tones were closer to the decoration style of Xunhuan's home. "Come here." Xunhuan patted the big bed beside him, "Try to see if the bed is comfortable." Chapter 28, All-Seeing. Jiang Qing looked into Xunhuan's deep eyes and her scalp tightened. She walked over, but before she could sit down, her wrist was grabbed and she was pulled directly onto the bed. Jiang Qing subconsciously held her breath. Xunhuan lay on his side, turned around and moved closer to her, supporting his head with his arms, his posture lazy and his eyes bright. After being stared at for 2 seconds and realizing that he didn't pounce on her, Jiang Qing relaxed a little. "Nervous?" A lazy voice sounded, just 2 words, but with a malicious feeling. "No way." She denied. His chin was pinched up, and a pair of cold eyes seemed to penetrate into it. "Afraid of dying in my bed." Jiang Qing's heart skipped a beat and her head buzzed. She cleared her throat nervously and shook her head pretending to be calm. "You should be afraid." The man suddenly stood up and unbuttoned his shirt under Jiang Qing's gaze. "The exciting muscles are exposed before your eyes." Just when Jiang Qing wanted to enjoy the temptation of male beauty, Song Li called. She was alert at the first moment. Xunhuan also noticed the obvious change in her expression and subconsciously wanted to hang up the damn phone. But Jiang Qing was 1 step faster. "Hello, Mom." "Jiang Qing, where are you? Come to the hospital quickly." Song Li's voice was anxious, as if she was about to have a seizure. Jiang Qing felt the hairs on her body stand up, and she responded repeatedly, "Okay, Mom, I'll be there right away, just relax." "Hurry up. I want to see you right away." "New." After hanging up the phone, Jiang Qing looked up at Xunhuan. Her embarrassed expression was self-evident. "Is there an emergency?" He tilted his head slightly, got out of bed and lit a cigarette. "Well, my mother." "Okay," Xunhuan waved his hand, showing a rare understanding. "Just remember that you owe me one. Let us go." "R?" She almost thought she had heard wrongly. The man in front of her actually showed her mercy for the second time. Xunhuan signaled Jiang Qing with his eyes, "Let's go, I don't want to see you off today." "Jiang Qing." When we came out of the hotel, Fengshe had been waiting downstairs for a long time. What Jiang Qing couldn't get rid of in her mind was the tense abdominal muscles and the strong back. "I looked up at the moonlight, what a pity." Jiang Qing got in the car and said to Fengshe, "Thank you for your hard work." Fengshe said nothing and just remained polite. When she arrived at the hospital, Jiang Qing saw Song Li wandering in the corridor. Her heart skipped a beat. What stimulated Song Li that she suddenly fell ill? Jiang Qing ran over quickly, "Mom." Song Li took the opportunity to look over and eagerly grabbed Jiang Qing's hand. "A reporter from the TV station contacted me and wants to interview me." TV station. Jiang Qing was suspicious. Why? Song Li took a deep breath, as if she was too excited, and kept adjusting her breathing. "There is a caring entrepreneur who wants to donate to your brother, so the reporter said he wanted to come for an interview." Jiang Qing frowned unconsciously. It turned out that Song Li was not ill, but was just excited. However, almost no one knew that her younger brother Jiang Yu had been bedridden for many years. How come an entrepreneur suddenly came to donate? "Mom, give me the reporter's phone number and I'll talk to them." Jiang Qing wanted to refuse directly. "Jiang Qing." Song Li's eyes were stern and she asked, "Don't you want your brother to get better soon? There is such a good opportunity to receive help from the society, why do you refuse?" Song Li was breathing rapidly and it seemed that she could not control her emotions again. "Mom, I'm not going to refuse." She was afraid that Song Li would be upset, so she had to coax her. I just think we can afford Jiang Yu's medical expenses, so we don't need to accept donations. You're really going to piss me off to death. If you refuse such a good opportunity, I'll go downstairs with your brother to meet your dad. Song Li yelled. Jiang Qing was helpless and took a deep breath. This damn feeling of suffocation made her extremely depressed. Okay, Mom, I was wrong. I will cooperate with you. I will cooperate with everything. Her voice became smaller and smaller. In this life, her mother and brother are probably destined to be her biggest weaknesses and ties. Soon, all the lights on the floor were turned on by the nurses. The quiet corridor became lively. 2 reporters from the TV station came over accompanied by a young and elegant-looking woman. The woman's every move and gesture is full of friendliness and leadership. Song Li hurried over and urged Jiang Qing, "Go over and ask quickly, they are probably here to interview us." Jiang Qing had no choice but to obey the order and walk over. When she came in front of them, Jiang Qing recognized the woman in front of her at a glance. She had seen her before. And I saw it at Tanlang Group. At that time, Meng Ying always followed this woman with an attentive attitude. "Hello, I am Jiang Yu's sister." Jiang Qing spoke first, her eyes fixed on the woman's face. The female entrepreneur looked at Jiang Qing with a humble smile and took the initiative to extend her hand to shake her hand. "Hello, Xiao Jiang, we are all very moved after hearing your brother's story. We took the liberty of coming to visit him today. Please don't mind." Jiang Qing wanted to say that you are quite presumptuous, but seeing Song Li's smiling face, she didn't want to expose her in person. When entrepreneurs like this participate in charity work and even have to be interviewed by television stations, it is mostly just a show. "Thank you." She said 2 short words without further explanation. While filming, the reporter guided Jiang Qing, "Say a few more words." "There's nothing to say. You'd better not let my brother appear in the camera. I don't like him being exposed in front of the camera," Jiang Qing said with a serious expression. But Fang Xuanxia's smile was not affected at all. In front of the camera, she has managed to capture the warm smile of the philanthropic entrepreneur. The reporter did not miss any opportunity and deliberately created shots of Jiang Qing and the female entrepreneur in the same frame. "Mr. Fang, how did you become aware of Jiang Yu's deeds?" the reporter asked tirelessly. Fang Xuanxia looked at Jiang Qing, her beautiful eyes showing a deep meaning that was hard to understand. "Jiang Qing has been very popular recently. I saw a topic about her on the trending searches. She is a doctor at a plastic surgery hospital, and the hospital union provided me with clues for assistance." After hearing what Fang Xuanxia said, Jiang Qing suddenly understood. This woman. She should be Lu Tanlang's wife. Fang Xuanxia is a legendary philanthropic female entrepreneur with great connections and means. Chapter 29, No Armor Left. "Come here, Xiao Jiang, let's take a photo together." Fang Xuanxia greeted Jiang Qing and handed the donated red envelope to her. The reporter next to her immediately reminded Jiang Qing in a low voice, "Hold the red envelope higher and smile at the camera." Jiang Qing frowned slightly and didn't want to cooperate with the performance. Seeing this, Song Li hurried over and stood beside her daughter, holding her hand holding the red envelope high. Crack! Crack! After taking the group photo, Fang Xuanxia shook hands cordially with Song Li and Jiang Qing, and then left with the reporters. Song Li sat down, happily peeled an orange for Jiang Qing, and took out 20,000 yuan in funding from the red envelope, seeming very satisfied. "Mom, please don't do this kind of donation next time." Jiang Qing spoke seriously, as if giving Song Li an ultimatum. Song Li seemed not to understand and continued, "They said you are famous on the internet, otherwise how could you get 20,000 yuan so easily? It is enough for your brother's medical expenses for one day." "Mom." Jiang Qing wanted to say something, but in the end she just stretched out the last syllable and sighed. A deep sense of powerlessness. Seeing Jiang Qing like this, Song Li asked curiously, "What's wrong? You're just too worried. Be happy." Jiang Qing was speechless. Who could be happy with such a family background? She was extremely patient with Song Li, just like coaxing a child, but it was of no avail. "I'm leaving, please take good care of Jiang Yu." When she was most helpless, she could only choose to escape temporarily. "Jiang Qing, how was your talk with Tanlang?" Song Li asked. Jiang Qing sneered. The person who just left was his wife, but it was a pity that her mother knew nothing about it. It's fine, don't worry. After saying that, she walked out of the ward. The evening breeze blew into her trouser legs, making her feel chilly, but to Jiang Qing, it was extremely refreshing and comfortable. As long as she left the suffocating ward, she would be able to heal herself immediately. Why did Fang Chuanxia suddenly donate her brother? It's obvious that it was because of Lu Tanlang. It seems that Fang Chuanxia has officially declared war on her face-to-face. Jiang Qing felt somewhat helpless, but since she had brought this upon herself, she naturally had nothing to fear. The next day, Sheng Fengshua called 3 times urgently before Jiang Qing answered the phone. Damn it, Qing'a, please be more careful. It's already this late and you're still sleeping. Jiang Qing was still a little dazed. She brushed her teeth while looking at herself in the mirror. What's wrong? Sheng Fengshua snorted coldly, as expected, all men are bad. He coaxes you here, and then he checks into a room with a mysterious woman there. Get a room. Forget it, I'll tell you straight away. The paparazzi photographed my idol secretly meeting with his mysterious girlfriend last night, and he even took her to the private suite of Huafeng Hotel. Sheng Fengshua was indignant. So, did the paparazzi take a picture of the woman's face? Jiang Qing asked tentatively, still feeling a little guilty. Of course not, her face is blurry. Otherwise, how can you say she is a mysterious woman? Sheng Fengshua paused and asked, that woman, couldn't be you? Of course not. Jiang Qing didn't know why and subconsciously denied it. I told you, you've been caught up in a whirlpool of negative public opinion recently, how could it be you who's taking the blame? Sheng Fengshua kept muttering to himself, but Jiang Qing's attention was only focused on the 4 words, cannon fodder. Could it be that Lu Xunhuan took her to a hotel last night in order to divert public attention? This way no one will pay attention to her as a little cannon fodder. While thinking about it, Sheng Fengshua said anxiously, it's over, Huanxin CP is fighting again, I'm going to go and see the fun. After hanging up the phone, Jiang Qing curiously clicked on Huanxin CP's super topic, and sure enough, it was full of curses. Netizen narrow road, Lu Xunhuan is so funny. He took advantage of my sister's popularity for a few days, but he couldn't stand the loneliness of the second young master Hua, so he took someone to get a room. Netizen Jinshin MI fan, this kind of scumbag should get out of here. Don't mess with my sister Shin'er. Just as Sheng Fengshua said, Lu Xunhuan personally broke up the CP, killing them all without leaving a single one, and successfully diverted public attention. Naturally, no one paid attention to her as a cannon fodder. Jiang Qing turned off her cell phone, changed into sportswear, and went out for a run. During her evening shift today, she ran a lap along the bridge and was sweating profusely. On her way home, she passed by the market and thought of crossing the alley to buy breakfast, but she met a familiar figure at the entrance of the alley. The man was fully armed, wearing black clothes and a black hat, and he pulled her into the alley. Jiang Qing almost didn't recognize that the man was Lu Xunhuan and thought she was being robbed. I didn't relax until I smelled the familiar light tobacco wood scent on him. But suddenly, she was pressed against the cold wall by the man again. The narrow eyes behind the black mask looked even deeper and colder. Master Lu, why are you here? Jiang Qing wondered. Did you take money from Fang Chuanxia? He went straight to the point. Jiang Qing nodded reluctantly, that's true. The man's eyes darkened, as if he was extremely disappointed. Are you so short of money? It's not what you think. Jiang Qing wanted to explain. Asking for any money will only kill you. His voice was very cold, even colder than the wall behind her. Jiang Qing saw a fire in his angry eyes. She clenched her fingers and swallowed back the words she was about to explain. Because in that cluster of flames, there were scenes of her father's tragic death, her mother's madness, and her brother's vegetative state. Fate had long ago suffocated her, and her self-esteem had long since been trampled beyond recognition. But she seemed to have gotten too carried away these days and almost misunderstood that the man in front of her had real feelings for her. She just felt like a big idiot. In his eyes, she was just a woman who was insatiable, materialistic, and almost became someone's mistress. Please don't block me. She spoke in a cold voice, looking directly at Lu Xunhuan with a gloomy expression. The two people looked at each other for a long time. The man finally took a step back and let her go. Looking at Jiang Qing's back, Lu Xunhuan angrily poked his cheek with his tongue. Sisters, over here. It's Xunhuan. A girl holding a mobile phone appeared out of nowhere and called on other companions to come over and take pictures of Xunhuan. Oh my god. Seeing this, Xunhuan ran away like a rabbit. The consequence of doing good things is, it's your own fault. Chapter 30, Planning on Her. Xunhuan had long legs, and he successfully left the group of girls behind after just a few steps. Not far away, the car of good brother Xuedao just drove over. Xunhuan quickly got into the car, took off his mask and hat, and took a breath. Xuedao looked at his rather sloppy appearance and couldn't help but tease him. Is this still our high and mighty second master Lu? He looks so disheveled that I almost couldn't recognize him. Stop talking nonsense and drive. Xunhuan was furious. Brother, when I heard that your master was in trouble, I came to rescue you immediately. Is this your attitude towards me? Xuedao felt aggrieved and didn't want to drive. Instead, he started checking his phone, waiting for Master Lu to coax him. But at this moment, Xunhuan's mind was filled with Jiang Qing's stinky face. Although he didn't reflect on whether his words were too harsh, he felt that he should give her another chance and assume that she was really trying to save her brother. An inspiring female doctor started a live broadcast to make money in order to save her brother who was in a vegetative state. Jiang Qing's true identity has been revealed, and these terms have become hot searches. Charitable female entrepreneur Fang Chuanxia learned about Jiang Qing's story and donated money to her. Xuedao sighed as he scrolled through his phone. Damn, it turns out that Qing's life story was so tragic. Xunhuan didn't respond. Xuedao put down his phone and asked solemnly, Hey, can you be nicer to my sister Qing in the future? Sister Qing. Xunhuan glanced at him coldly. Xuedao pulled the corners of his mouth, with an uninhibited look on his face. Anyway, I like Jiang Qing very much. If you just want to play with her. What do you want? Xunhuan suddenly stretched out his hand and grabbed his neck, revealing a bloodthirsty look. Xuedao was startled, and quickly reached out to pry his strong fingers like pliers. Ahem, let me go, I'll count to 3. 1. Xunhuan's eyes darkened and he squeezed even tighter. Xuedao was almost dying of suffocation before begging for mercy. Okay, I give in. Only then did Xunhuan let him go. Cough, cough, cough. He coughed loudly on purpose. I just saved you, and not only did you not marry me, you even killed me in broad daylight. Stop talking nonsense. Take me back to the company. Okay, boss, then sit tight. Xuedao said in a long tone, stepped on the accelerator, and the car rushed out with a roar. Then he started to talk nonchalantly. I mean, if you just treat her as a plaything, you can play with her for me after you're done. Believe it or not, I will castrate you right now. Xunhuan was furious, his elbow already against Xuedao's neck. Don't be ridiculous. We are on a Class A street now. If there is an accident, we will be on the news. Haven't I been in the news enough? Xunhuan didn't care. Xuedao smiled uninhibitedly, with a gangster temperament. Brother, I don't fall in love with news, I fall in love with women. You bastard. Xunhuan was speechless. Xuedao is not called the #1 playboy in Haicheng for nothing. He has never stopped having romantic affairs and he especially likes various internet celebrities. The last time he met Jiang Qing, he only met her once in the club, and this guy actually set his sights on her. Xunhuan decided to be wary of Xuedao. After all, he had no limits when it came to women. On the other side, Jiang Qing had already started working. A wise man does not fall in love, and she had no love, but only a gutter. So it would be even more unworthy to capsize in a ditch. The public opinion on the internet about her has been completely reversed, and she has been set up as a role model in her workplace. The dean personally made her a full-time employee and also organized a fundraising event for her among all the doctors. Jiang Qing had a gloomy face the whole time. Fundraising again. Liu Baihui donated 100 yuan very reluctantly, complaining, who doesn't have worries? Who doesn't need money? Why doesn't anyone pity me? Baihui, keep your voice down. Director Wang Jian donated 2,000 yuan and did not forget to remind his confidant. Jiang Qing was standing not far away from the two of them and could hear clearly what they were saying. Seeing that Wang Jian personally comforted her, Liu Baihui became a little more unrestrained and said in a choked voice, Director, my bonus this month has been confiscated. Jiang Qing is my nemesis. You have to treat me to a meal, otherwise, I won't be able to live like this. If I lose weight, the feel of some parts of my body will be bad. Wang Jian understood immediately, and stared at Liu Baihui's chest with his rat eyes, and leaned forward like an old peacock with its screen spread out. I know, Baihui has been wronged, I will definitely make up for it with the bonus, I don't want you to lose weight. Ahem. The dean appeared behind the two of them at some point, and seeing how sticky they were, he coughed sternly as a reminder. Jiang Qing actually saw the dean coming a long time ago, but deliberately did not remind them. Liu Baihui glared at Jiang Qing fiercely and quickly distanced herself from Wang Jian. The dean had a look of disgust on his face. He walked past them and went straight towards Jiang Qing. Xiao Jiang, this is a gift from me. Don't think it's too little. The dean said as he took out a red envelope and was about to put it into the donation box. Dean Liu, I really don't need your donations. Jiang Qing has said this many times, but the dean simply doesn't listen. Xiao Jiang, don't be polite. Take it and use it to treat your brother. In fact, I can use my connections to find a better doctor for your brother's illness. No need, Dean Liu, thank you for your concern. Jiang Qing quickly declined. The dean paused for a moment, his eyes darkened, and he slowly spoke, Xiao Jiang, there is one more thing. Jiang Qing frowned slightly, and had a bad feeling in her heart. You say, Dean. You know our hospital is looking for investment. If Fang Xuanxia can reach a cooperation agreement with our hospital, I can take you with me when I perform surgery in the future. Jiang Qing's heart sank. It turned out that he was waiting for her here. But she knew very well that Fang Xuanxia was not here to donate money, but to demonstrate to her. Chapter 31. The opponent is too strong. I'm sorry, Dean Liu, I don't know that entrepreneur at all. Jiang Qing immediately dispelled the dean's idea. The dean was slightly startled and nodded to show that he understood, but his tone was gentle yet firm. Give it a try to contact Fang Xuanxia, the development of the hospital depends on your young strength. After saying this, he turned and left. Jiang Qing cursed him as a bastard in her heart, but she remained calm on her face. After watching the dean walk away, Nurse Jin Ling dared to approach Jiang Qing and whispered, the hospital has noticed your popularity and wants to take this opportunity to become famous. Jiang Qing frowned, who leaked my family situation? Jin Ling shook her head. Even I didn't know about your situation before. Jiang Qing fell into deep thought. This question had troubled her for several days. Except for Xing Fengxue, who knew some details, no one else knew the situation in her family. Could it be? Jiang Qing thought about Song Li's recent abrupt behavior and suspected that her mother had told the TV station about this. But why was it Fang Xuanxia who made the donation? This is no accident. After get off work, Jiang Qing went to Huafeng Entertainment to start her second live broadcast. This time, she invited Xing Fengxue directly to the live broadcast room for real-life demonstration and explanation. The two of them chatted naturally with each other, using internet jargon, just like the way they usually get along with each other, and were very popular with fans and passers-by. Fans flooded the screen with messages expressing their envy of Xing Fengxue, who has a plastic surgeon as her best friend and can be as beautiful as she wants. Less than 10 minutes after the show started, Lu Tanlang, whose online name is Dark Night Joy, successfully topped the list again. Jiang Qing was helpless. Xing Fengxue was unaware of the situation and kept praising him crazily in the live broadcast room. The comments section of the live broadcast room scrolled too fast, but Jiang Qing still noticed a message from a netizen, Dr. Jiang, I heard that Mr. Lu's White Moonlight has returned to China. Are you sad? Jiang Qing's expression paused slightly, and she felt vaguely uneasy. When the live broadcast ended, it was already midnight. Jiang Qing looked at the income, then smiled at Xing Fengxue. Finally, all my efforts were not in vain. By this calculation, she will be able to return the money to Lu Xunhuan in about a month. Xue, thank you. Don't thank me. If you do, why would I ask you for money? Xing Fengxue's attitude is not serious. Jiang Qing split the income 50-50 without saying anything. Xing Fengxue looked at the income and smiled. The chemical effect of the sisters' combination has produced a violent reaction. Earning $1 million in 3 months is not a dream. It will take 3 months. 3 months is too slow. Are you thinking you're robbing a bank? Jiang Qing took a deep breath, thinking that she still had some savings, and if she pooled them together, it should be enough to pay back the debt. Xing Fengxue noticed that Jiang Qing seemed to be thinking about something, and immediately thought of something. She looked at Jiang Qing distressedly, her eyes slightly wavering. Qinger baby, it's not that you are not charming enough, but that your opponent is too strong. What are you talking about? Jiang Qing smiled. Shen Fengshu aside, you don't need to pretend to be strong in front of me. My idol is going to the airport to pick up his white moonlight this afternoon. Jiang Qing curled her lips, so what? Shen Fengshu directly held Jiang Qing's hand and expressed her comfort. This may not be true. Yuan Shina's studio released a Reuters report this afternoon. Yuan Shina is returning to China today. Wanshan CP fans are excited. Oh. Jiang Qing's expression was natural. Shen Fengshu was quite surprised. You are so calm. Jiang Qing didn't want to talk about this topic anymore. Okay, it's late. Go home and get some rest. She usually doesn't waste time on other things. Shen Fengshu understands her, and being with Jiang Qing makes people feel at ease. When the two walked out of the gate of Huafeng Entertainment Group, Jiang Qing saw Lu Xunhuan's car. The one driving was Feng Shi. Jiang Qing waved at Shen Fengshu. You go first, Xue. Shen Fengshu understood immediately and encouraged her in a low voice, go ahead, I wish you a pleasant night. Jiang Qing nodded, turned around and got into another car. Where are we going? Jiang Qing asked Feng Shi, who was driving in front. Club. Feng Shi was still as cold as ever, so Jiang Qing didn't ask any more questions. When she arrived, she was taken directly to the top luxury private room. Unlike what I imagined, the atmosphere in the private room was very good, with light music and slow-moving lights. Although the light was dim, it was very soft. There were 4 people sitting in the room, with a very beautiful girl between Lu Xunhuan and Xue Dao. When Xue Dao saw Jiang Qing coming, he immediately wagged his tail excitedly. Sister Qinger is here. Come and sit over here. Lu Xunhuan then gave him a sharp glare. Xue Dao restrained herself a little, but the corners of her mouth were still raised. The pretty girl was a little surprised to see Jiang Qing coming, and quickly asked, who is this? The man with glasses sitting in the corner quickly stood up and came over to ask Jiang Qing, what do you do? Jiang Qing looked at the girl carefully before realizing that she was Yuan Shina. She doesn't look like she does in the camera with light makeup. It should be said that she is more beautiful and youthful in real life. So the guy wearing glasses should be her agent? Before Jiang Qing could speak, Lu Xunhuan's voice rang out, I called you over, don't worry about it. Don't worry. Jiang Qing looked over and met his gaze. Those narrow eyes were still as dark as ever, unable to tell joy or anger, hiding a wild nature, staring at her intently. Yuan Shina turned around and happened to see the two of them looking at each other. She looked at Jiang Qing carefully and said in a clearly unhappy tone, Brother Wan, today is such an important day, why did you invite an outsider? I'm a famous star. What if my bare-faced photos are leaked? She deliberately emphasized the words, popular superstar. Yuan Shina obviously wanted to remind Jiang Qing that I am the top flower who is being used to gain popularity by you. Chapter 32 You are not good. You are absolutely beautiful even without makeup, there's no need to worry. Xue Dao took the initiative to ease the awkward atmosphere. Of course I do. You don't need to praise me. Yuan Shina raised her little face, expressing her dissatisfaction in a proud manner. So many people want me to praise them, but I won't. Xue Dao smiled and drank a glass of wine. Lu Xunhuan glanced at Jiang Qing and said, sit down. Xue Dao was very enthusiastic and personally stood up to greet Jiang Qing, come and sit next to your brother. Jiang Qing looked around and found an empty seat next to Xue Dao and Lu Xunhuan. She didn't hesitate and sat next to Lu Xunhuan. Xue Dao smiled upon seeing this, and sat down to pour some wine for Jiang Qing. Thank you, I don't drink. Jiang Qing quickly refused. You don't drink? You were quite able to drink last time. Xue Dao was wondering when Yuan Shina frowned and said, today is my home court. Are you guys done yet? Jiang Qing nodded slightly and said to Lu Xunhuan in a low voice, Second Master, today is your private party, and I am indeed not suitable to attend. It's nothing important, so I'll go back first. Lu Xunhuan's face was stern, his eyes were narrowed, but under such soft light, his facial lines were still strong and deep. Accompany me, isn't that important? Xue Dao stood nearby and listened, and couldn't help but burst out laughing. Jiang Qing was silent for a moment, and finally suppressed the urge to leave. The waiter knocked on the door and came in to serve the wine. Yuan Shen'er stared at him and suddenly had an idea. She glanced at Jiang Qing and said in a commanding tone, "Since you don't drink, you can help us pour the wine. Waiters, don't stay here. This is a private party." Jiang Qing glanced at Xunhuan, and he didn't seem to have any objections. "Good." She stood up, took the bottle from the waiter, and repeated the waiter's work. Yuan Shen'er smiled with satisfaction and enthusiastically tried to find a topic to talk to Xunhuan. Although Xunhuan was not enthusiastic, he did not let Yuan Shen'er feel awkward. In Jiang Qing's opinion, it was quite harmonious. Just as harmonious as when they were together with her. Jiang Qing arranged the wine bottles neatly, opened them at any time, and poured wine for everyone in a timely manner. Her movements were skillful and graceful, and she was never idle for a moment. Yuan Shen'er enjoyed this queen-like treatment very much. After drinking a few more glasses of wine, she became drunk. "Brother Xunhuan, I missed you very much when I was abroad. How about you? Do you miss me?" She raised the wine glass, her cheeks flushed, and her misty eyes were filled with infinite ambiguity. The girl who had a pure face just now, under the influence of alcohol, actually looked a little worldly. Perhaps, this is the true face of the top female star. Lu Xunhuan did not answer, but stood up and said coldly, "Go to the bathroom." Yuan Shen'er burst into a feeling of grievance, and immediately pouted at Xue Dao. "Why is he still this icy face? If he makes even the slightest progress, I will be with him." Xue Dao sneered and said nothing. Instead, he silently gave Jiang Qing a look, indicating that she should take a break and not take it too seriously. Jiang Qing also smiled politely. Yuan Shen'er caught this detail and immediately lost her guard. "There's something dirty in my wine glass." Xue Dao quickly leaned over to look, where? Yuan Shen'er's wine glass was empty. She was just looking for trouble. She stared at Jiang Qing with her beautiful peach blossom eyes, which were filled with infinite malice. Xue Dao noticed that the atmosphere was not right, and casually changed the cup for Yuan Shen'er. "This is for you." "I don't want it," she snorted. Jiang Qing pretended nothing had happened and continued with the work at hand. Yuan Shen'er stood up, folded her hands in front of her chest, and looked at Jiang Qing. She found that she was not only taller than her, but also very elegant. It was that bookish scent that was exactly what she didn't have. After making this comparison, Yuan Shen'er became even angrier. But fortunately, she was the one in a superior position and could easily trample the woman opposite her into the mud. "I say, do you want to be famous?" Yuan Shen'er asked Jiang Qing directly. Jiang Qing's eyes were calm and she said decisively, "I don't want to." "Then why are you riding on my popularity? Did Brother Xunhuan let you do that?" Yuan Shen'er said in an aggressive tone. Jiang Qing looked calm. It was an unintentional act. "Stop talking nonsense," Yuan Shen'er said sarcastically. "I think you are very scheming. But don't be too happy too soon. Second Master and I are childhood sweethearts. You'd better not have any other ideas." Jiang Qing smiled. "I don't have any ideas, don't worry." Yuan Shen'er stomped her feet and felt like she was punching cotton. She was so angry but had no place to vent. Jiang Qing turned around to put the wine bottle away and saw Lu Xunhuan standing at the door at some point. His face was stern and his dark eyes were filled with anger. Xue Dao knew Lu Xunhuan too well and was really afraid that he would lose his temper and hurt innocent people. So he picked up Yuan Shen'er's bag and called her agent. "Send her back quickly, she's drunk." The agent came over and supported Yuan Shen'er, who was walking unsteadily. Xue Dao followed them, and when passing by Jiang Qing, he gave her a look that said, "Take care of yourself." Until the door of the private room was closed again. Jiang Qing and Lu Xunhuan were the only two people left in the space. To avoid embarrassment, Jiang Qing looked at her watch and spoke first. "Second Master, shall we go too? You don't have any ideas. Are you here just to pour drinks today?" Lu Xunhuan walked over and sat on the sofa, with a powerful aura. Jiang Qing said without hesitation, "I will do whatever the second master tells me to do." Lu Xunhuan raised his eyes to look at her, grabbed her wrist, and instantly pulled her onto his lap. Jiang Qing lost her balance and her face accidentally touched his lips, which were warm and soft, causing her heart to wrinkle a little. Lu Xunhuan stared at her, as if he wanted to see through her soul. "I think you are not obedient, and you are also very rebellious. How did second master know that?" The distance was too close and Jiang Qing felt his throat dry. Lu Xunhuan's big hands moved restlessly down her slender waist, stopping at her soft and perky buttocks. His eyes were deep, everywhere. His sexy thin lips pressed against the tip of her ear, and his voice was sweet and lustful, rebellious. Jiang Qing's skin began to tremble, blood rushed to her head, and her brain went blank. It took a long time before I remembered to hold down his rebellious hands. Second master, are you blaming me for not fighting and pulling hair with your childhood sweetheart today? She asked bluntly, meeting his gaze, her enchanting eyes exuding a vixen-like allure in the dark night. Lu Xunhuan's body reacted instantly, but his mind was clear as a rock. After being easily exposed by her, he lifted her little face and frowned. Jiang Qing, have you grown up? Chapter 33, Love. Jiang Qing knew exactly what Lu Xunhuan meant. Just 2 days ago, she had sorted out her emotions and put herself in the right position. So he straightened his chest, looked at Lu Xunhuan seriously, and presented facts and reason. As a doctor, I can say responsibly that not only have I grown a heart, but I am also very healthy. Lu Xunhuan took the opportunity to fix his gaze on her protruding scenery. His eyes warmed up. You are quite good at playing dumb. The desire that had just subsided was ignited again, and the man's vision immediately became unclear. It seems that you are not grown up, but indifferent. Jiang Qing laughed when she heard this, as if she had heard a very funny joke. Second master, do you want me to be more enthusiastic? Or, second master has feelings for me. Lu Xunhuan's heartbeat paused slightly and he looked at her intently. Jiang Qing quickly denied herself and smiled faintly. How is that possible? It seems that in second master's eyes, I only care about money. Not to save my brother. Do you believe it? The two faced each other and their eyes met. The air became 3 points heavier. Lu Xunhuan frowned. You have indeed made a lot of efforts for money. Jiang Qing smiled bitterly. I work during the day, live stream until midnight, and then serve wine. I really work very hard. Lu Xunhuan didn't say anything, but there seemed to be other unknown emotions in his eyes. Jiang Qing said jokingly, so second master brought me to such an important occasion. If I act like a jealous woman, wouldn't that make you embarrassed? In just one sentence, Lu Xunhuan couldn't refute it. It's well reasoned and well founded, what else can he say? Lu Xunhuan's brows relaxed, and the corners of his mouth twitched slightly. You are quite smart. It was a compliment to her, but it sounded full of irony. Jiang Qing gently continued, how can I be someone by your side if I'm not smart? Whenever he spoke, she would retort, each word more harsh than the last. Lu Xunhuan snorted coldly. He was not a good-tempered gentleman. His double eyelids slightly lifted, revealing a murderous look, and the light mole at the end of his eye was now exposed. Listen, I don't like it. But, Jiang Qing looked embarrassed and even thought for a moment, you have your rules, and I have my bottom line. I abide by your rules, and you don't break my bottom line. This is fair. In other words, she only devotes her body but not her emotions. No matter how bluntly it was said, this sentence still deeply hurt Lu Xunhuan's nerves. Is there any fairness between us? A big hand embraced her, and she was forced to press against the man's chest. It seemed like control, but more like a threat. A burning sensation came from the bottom of her heart, and the strong heartbeat made her scalp numb. For a moment, her breathing became unstable. Lu Xunhuan's eyes turned and he asked in a deep voice, in this position now, you want to talk to me about your bottom line? Jiang Qing tried to reach out and push him, but failed after the first attempt. What do you think we should talk about? She asked in a low voice. Lu Xunhuan reached out and touched her hair, saying in a tender tone, talk about love and make love. These were straightforward and simple words. Jiang Qing saw obvious lust in Lu Xunhuan's eyes. She slowly raised her hands, cupped his cheeks, and prepared to kiss him. Lu Xunhuan was fed up with her cold obedience. His narrow eyes suddenly narrowed, and the hand that was touching her hair suddenly exerted force, as if getting rid of some garbage, to let her leave his body. His force wasn't strong, but Jiang Qing still felt like her hair was about to be pulled bald. Lu Xunhuan. You bastard. Of course, the following words cannot be said. But her expression was just right, as if she had already cursed. Lu Xunhuan stood up, looking down at her, and said in a heartless voice, Jiang Qing, you'd better not let me throw you away too soon. Jiang Qing looked at the tall figure of the man walking out the door, and suddenly her heart seemed to be stung. It was Feng Shi who sent her home again. The temperature in the car was 20 degrees Celsius, but Jiang Qing felt cold all over. She offended her financial sponsor and thought she was defending her bottom line, but in the end it seemed like both sides were hurt. Lu Xunhuan wanted her to be his lover with both brains and emotions? She didn't dare. I can't do it either. But she also had to admit that she, who had always been rational, was inexplicably heartbroken this time. Their relationship? There's really no need to make such a fuss. Fengshe, who was driving in front, saw Jiang Qing's sad face from the rearview mirror. He recalled what Lu Xunhuan said to him just now after he left the house, and couldn't help but sigh in his heart. The boss took great pains to set up a trap to entrap Jiang Qing, but in the end, she calmly broke it. This woman is really extraordinary. His boss. It's really pitiful. Chapter 34, Falling into the Cold War. After sending Jiang Qing off, Fengshe returned to Huafeng Hotel to meet Lu Xunhuan. Boss, Miss Jiang has arrived home safely. While Fengshe was reporting, he saw Lu Xunhuan sitting on the sofa and lighting a cigarette. Here. He casually threw one to Fengshe. Fengshe took the cigarette, hesitated for a moment, and finally lit it. Sit down. Lu Xunhuan took a puff of cigarette, his eyes casual. Fengshe nodded and sat on the sofa chair opposite Lu Xunhuan. Although he had followed him for more than 10 years, they seldom sat and chatted like this. In Fengshe's eyes, Lu Xunhuan was viewed as a king and he could only be respected, not treated as an equal. Fengshe, Lu Xunhuan said calmly, are we brothers? Fengshe was stunned. You're my boss, he blurted out. After 5 seconds, seeing that Lu Xunhuan didn't say anything, Fengshe looked up at him and slowly added, he's also my eldest brother. Lu Xunhuan smiled bitterly and said nothing. After finishing his cigarette silently, Fengshe stood up and was about to leave. By the way, Fengshe, Lu Xunhuan instructed, during this period of time, you must protect Jiang Qing well, and report to me immediately if anything happens. Yes, boss. Lu Xunhuan signaled that he could leave. Fengshe turned around and walked a few steps. Then he thought of something, turned back, and said hesitantly, boss, you don't have any plans to go abroad recently. Yes, I know. Fengshe then said, are you not going to see Miss Jiang recently? Lu Xunhuan raised his eyelids when he heard this, and his eyes flashed with a hint of sternness, it's none of your business. Fengshe, yes. He turned and walked out, wondering what the boss had just said about brotherhood. It's none of my business. After Jiang Qing returned home, she felt heavy for several days and had a low fever in the afternoon. My throat was hoarse and sore. The medicine I took only relieved the symptoms. When I lay down at night, I would have a high fever of 38 degrees. It was very painful and made me look haggard. Since that day, she and Lu Xunhuan have never contacted each other again, as if they were in a cold war after a quarrel. But Jiang Qing felt that there was actually no need for that. It's just a matter of each taking what he needs, that's what he said. Jiang Qing, the dean is calling. Nurse Jin Ling answered the phone and called Jiang Qing. Jiang Qing quickly collected her thoughts and ran to answer the phone. Hello, Dean Liu. Xiao Jiang, I asked you to contact Mr. Fang last time. How was your contact going? Jiang Qing guessed that the dean was looking for her for this matter. We are in contact and waiting for news. Really? The dean's voice was clearly unconvinced. I'll give you another 3 days, 5 days, 5 days. If you still can't make up your mind, you can go back to being Dr. Liu Baihui's assistant. Jiang Qing thought the dean would be angry, but she didn't expect him to be so shameless. She took a deep breath, readjusted her mood, and smiled to show her weakness. Leader, I don't have any ability to do anything. I will definitely do my best to contribute to the hospital to the best of my ability, but I can't do it without your help. When the dean heard this, Jiang Qing was showing weakness and flattering her, and she also began to add value to her. Xiao Jiang, you know we can contact Fang Chuanxia directly through personal connections, but our relationships are very valuable, don't you understand? You are just a young doctor who has just started, you need to create more opportunities for yourself. Hearing this, Jiang Qing cursed the dean as an old bastard hundreds of times in her heart, but she still had to remain humble and polite. Thank you for your kindness, Dean. I will definitely try my best, but I really can't guarantee that I can succeed. I am a nobody, so please be considerate of me, Dean. There is no room for negotiation on this matter. I have already reported it to the board of directors. After the dean finished speaking, he hung up the phone. In the afternoon, Qing was notified to go out for a temporary consultation and provide door-to-door medical services to VIP patients. Jinling was looking through the notice for Qing's outpatient visit, and she complained, "This patient is the most difficult one to deal with. No doctor is willing to serve him. The director is just trying to make things difficult for you. Never mind, it's a good opportunity to go out and relax." Qing decided to fight back. Seeing that she was not in good condition, Jinling handed her a thermometer and said, "Take your temperature." "No, it's okay." Qing knew that she must still have a fever. She didn't want Jinling to worry about her, so she put the thermometer back at the nurse's station and prepared to go to the patient's home. After leaving the hospital gate, a top-of-the-line Panamera drove up to the parking lot and stopped in front of her. Qing was surprised that Fengshe was stationed in her hospital parking lot around the clock. After getting in the car, she coughed twice and asked curiously, "Why didn't you leave after sending me off this morning?" Fengshe didn't say anything extra, just because Xunhuan had instructed him to do so. Qing coughed twice again, feeling unwell, and said nothing more. When we arrived at the patient's designated location, it was a villa in a wealthy area. Fengshe looked around through the car window and became a little alert. "Ms. Jiang, if you encounter any problems, please contact me immediately." "Okay, don't worry." Qing got out of the car. According to the address, she entered the gate of a villa. Someone took her inside and brought her to a room on the third floor. Qing knocked on the door, and a strange yet familiar voice came from inside, "Come in." Chapter 35 Good Technique. Qing walked into the room. It was very dim inside and the floor-length curtains were closed, not a single ray of light could get in. She felt inexplicably depressed. The person who brought her here had already left, and Qing saw a man lying on the sofa. "Hello, I'm a plastic surgeon." She took the initiative to speak. But the man didn't respond. Qing was suspicious and walked over carefully, not knowing whether he was asleep. As she walked closer, she recognized that the man was Yuan Minchi. No wonder she seemed to have heard his voice somewhere before. The man opened his eyes, sat up and started to rage. "Are you kidding me, this damn hospital? You change doctors every day, don't you want to continue your business?" He looked like a lion that had just had a good sleep, with a pair of evil red eyes and an unbuttoned black shirt, revealing his muscular bronze chest. Qing withdrew her gaze. Yuan Minchi took a closer look, and a wicked smile slowly formed on the corner of his mouth. "So it's you. Hello, I'm sorry, there are a lot of doctor training activities in the hospital recently, so I have to switch shifts and go out for outpatient consultations." While Qing was explaining the situation to him, she opened the medicine box and began to make preparations. "So he's a plastic surgeon, no wonder he looks so cool." The man commented behind her. Qing didn't respond, her heart was beating fast. She turned to look at him. "Mr. Yuan, it's a little dim here. We need to turn on the lights." Yuan Minchi stood up and walked around to the door, turned on all the lights, and the room immediately became bright. Qing subconsciously looked towards the closed curtains, but Yuan Minchi had no intention of opening them, so she could only give up. "Please lie down, I will help you check the repositioning of your nasal bone." Qing put on medical gloves and stood opposite Yuan Minchi. Yuan Minchi still had a faint smile on his face. "Okay, come on." After he lay down, Qing moved the swivel chair, sat down, and carefully observed his postoperative condition of the rhinoplasty. Qing lowered her eyes, her eyelashes were long and slender, and her eyes were clear. Her smart gaze was focused, like a desert flower, not attracting dust but hiding its sharpness. Yuan Minchi tilted his head back and stared at her intently. Qing calmed down and said calmly, "Can I touch your nose?" "Of course." Yuan Minchi smiled, rarely being so easygoing. Qing reached out and touched the nose prosthesis, and immediately knew what was going on. "It will take several manipulations to reposition it. I'll help you this time. Next time, Mr. Yuan can go to the hospital for the procedure." "No need, just come a few more times," Yuan Minchi asked directly. "Then let's see about next time's shift schedule," Qing said in a roundabout way. In fact, she didn't want to come again. Yuan Minchi slowly retracted his smile, closed his eyes, and let Qing help him reset. Half an hour later, Jiang Qing spoke up, Mr. Yuan, you should be more careful when washing your face. Today's reset is done. Feel it, is there any discomfort? Yuan Minchi sat up, was silent for 2 minutes, and shook his head. Good technique, very comfortable. He fastened the collar and cuffs of his shirt one by one, without taking his eyes off Jiang Qing. Dr. Jiang's hands are so soft. Jiang Qing's eyebrows moved slightly. What does this mean? I'm going back first. She changed the subject immediately, packed her things, and prepared to leave. Yuan Minchi picked up her medicine box first and looked at her from top to bottom unscrupulously. The pretty face, the big breasts, the thin waist, the long legs, the abstinent white coat. He suddenly understood why Xunhuan liked her so much. His evil eyes narrowed fiercely, and his attitude became even worse. You've given me a physiological reaction. Stop following Xunhuan and follow me. Jiang Qing met his gaze, and her brows furrowed in fear of such a straightforward request. Yuan Minchi's temperament is different from Xunhuan's. He always gives people a murderous aura that makes people shudder. Her legs were a little weak at this moment, but she remained calm as always. She took the medicine box from him, her face showing a rare calmness. I will think carefully about Mr. Yuan's advice. Goodbye. She didn't dare to reject him directly. She was even afraid that if she provoked him, he would do something to hurt her. So after escaping from his villa, Jiang Qing's clothes were soaked with cold sweat. She finally breathed a sigh of relief when she saw Fengshu's car was still parked where she got off. Fengshu obviously saw that she was still in shock, so he asked directly, Did you meet Yuan Minchi? Jiang Qing paused, You know. Fengshu fell into deep thought, his expression turned grim, I'm in trouble. I didn't expect that the patient would be him. Fengshu's tone was filled with regret, the developer of the nearby villa is Yuan Minchi, that's why I didn't let you in just now. Jiang Qing took a deep breath, nothing dangerous happened. I just performed a nose reshaping operation on him. I won't come next time. You must not tell Master Lu about this. Fengshu turned his head to look at her, as if he wanted to hear a reason. Jiang Qing said calmly, It's better to have less trouble than more. I don't want to get into any more trouble. At this moment, Fengshu's car phone rang, and the word boss appeared on the screen. Jiang Qing was nervous and put her hands together, Please. Chapter 36 She is reasonable. Fengshu glanced at Jiang Qing and picked up the phone. Boss, please speak. Where? Xunhuan's voice was low. Jiang Qing looked at Fengshu in fear. Fengshu answered calmly, In the parking lot of Miss Jiang's hospital. Jiang Qing finally felt relieved and bowed to him repeatedly, feeling like she had been saved. Xunhuan, keep an eye on her. Beep. Jiang Qing. After thanking Fengshu, Jiang Qing hurried back to the department to continue working. Just now she was indeed afraid that Xunhuan would know that she had met Yuan Minchi. From the tense situation the last time the two met, she knew that Yuan Minchi was someone she couldn't afford to mess with. If Xunhuan knew that Yuan Minchi was still so blatantly stealing people, she didn't know how crazy he would react, so it was better not to let him know. Fengshu is a really capable person. He really takes action when something happens. As soon as Jiang Qing arrived in the corridor, she heard Liu Baihui and other doctors talking nonsense in the doctor's office. The dean is so funny. Any identity can be used to check and balance me. Jiang Qing walked calmly into the doctor's office. Liu Baihui did not restrain herself because of Jiang Qing's return. Instead, she became even more aggressive. Fang Xuanxia is my old customer. I can't even get sponsorship from her. How can I expect a young doctor who just got a regular job? I think Daking will forget it. Har har har, Director Liu is so humorous. The other doctors were all laughing. Jiang Qing knew that she was making a veiled accusation. But he didn't want to spoil her, so he directly said, Director Liu, you are worrying too much. I have already rejected the dean's request. Jiang Qing's pretty little face was as cold as ice. Liu Baihui smiled coldly, This is you, pretending to be a pitiful little white rabbit in front of the dean, but you are arrogant in front of us. Thank you for your comment. Although it is redundant, I won't listen to it either. Jiang Qing deliberately made her angry. It's up to you. Be the attending physician for life. Liu Baihui held her head high, folded her hands in front of her chest, and walked out of the general doctor's office with a proud look on her face. Keep your position as deputy director. There is no vacant seat in the general office. Jiang Qing raised her voice. The other attending physicians in the office all gave Jiang Qing a thumbs up. In fact, the young doctors couldn't stand the arrogance of Wang Jian and Liu Baihui, but because of their lack of experience, they could only dare to be angry but not speak out. During lunch break, Jin Ling and Jiang Qing had lunch together. I heard about your heroic deeds today. Jin Ling looked at Jiang Qing with a smile. Now you are the bravest soldier in the department. They said that they will give you the opportunity to help Africa next time. I really would thank you. Jiang Qing took a sip of water and started eating. But I tell you, the first bird to stick its head out gets shot. Director Liu has been checking on your outpatient consultations every day recently. Jin Ling reminded. Jiang Qing smiled and said, let it be. You have such a good attitude. If it were me, I would have been anxious a long time ago. Jin Ling sighed. Jiang Qing put down her chopsticks and looked seriously at Jin Ling's clear college student eyes. Is anxiety useful? That's right. Jin Ling shook her head helplessly. Jiang Qing didn't want to talk about this, so she smiled and continued eating. In the afternoon, Jiang Qing stared at the work software. Her leave application was still hanging there, but Wang Jian refused to approve it, and the administrative department was helpless. It would be a lie to say I'm not worried. So after get off work, she went straight to Xing Fengshue's apartment, urgently needing to vent to her bestie. Xing Fengshue is doing yoga with a facial mask on her face. Jiang Qing washed her face first, ate some snacks, and put on a facial mask. You haven't stayed overnight at my place for a long time. You value women over friendship. Xing Fengshue scolded her and put away the yoga mat. I'm here now, Jiang Qing helped to clean up diligently. Xing Fengshue glanced at her and asked, my idol doesn't need you to accompany him. No more contact. Jiang Qing said casually. What? Xing Fengshue was excited. Then, under her questioning, Jiang Qing briefly recounted what had happened between her and Lu Xunhuan in the past few days. Xing Fengshue reached out and poked Jiang Qing on the forehead. You really don't know what's good for you. My idol controlled the comments for you and turned all his firepower on himself. During this period, the share price of Huafeng Entertainment has also fallen. You still have the nerve to go into a cold war with my idol. Do you still have a conscience, Jiang Qing? Don't scold me, Jiang Qing pouted. Your Huafeng Entertainment stock price fell, and it's all your fault. Who let that little circle frame me and try to frame by Yue Guang? Besides, I shouldn't have been involved in Lu Xunhuan and Yuan Shen's mess. Now Lu Xunhuan is taking it all on his own, so he's still a human being. Jiang Qing's words left Xing Fengshue speechless. This is how it happened, and this is how it is. Jiang Qing, you are really scary. Your rationality is scary. Xing Fengshue commented, silently speaking up for her male god. Even a man like Mr. Lu will one day meet his opponent. Jiang Qing is not an ordinary little girl. She is cruel, has many tricks, and is reasonable. The worst thing is that she is reasonable. Xing Fengshue was helpless. At night, the two lay down, and Jiang Qing tossed over twice but couldn't fall asleep. Xing Fengshue said indifferently, anyway, I don't know what you're thinking. What good will it bring to you if you disobey your financial sponsor? You've already decided to just have sex and not talk about love, so why are you still in a cold war? This is contradictory in itself. If I were to ask you, there must be feelings between you, but you just don't admit it. Xing Fengshue firmly believes that the couple she supports will definitely be together, so from time to time, she must give them assistance. Jiang Qing didn't say anything, but she felt that the first half of Xing Fengshue's words made sense. Why should she disobey? She should hug her thighs and please him like crazy. This was the right choice. Wrong, really wrong. Just when I was regretting, a dark shadow suddenly flashed on the balcony behind the curtains. Jiang Qing thought she had seen it wrong. Just as she stood up and was about to speak, Xing Fengshue covered her mouth. Xing Fengshue looked nervous and shook her head at her, then she quietly got out of bed. Jiang Qing's attention was focused on the balcony, where the dark shadow was tiptoeing to reach the underwear hanging there. Jiang Qing subconsciously took out her cell phone and long pressed the emergency contact button, which was dedicated to Lu Xunhuan. At this time, Xing Fengshue was holding a baseball bat in his hand. He gave Jiang Qing a look, indicating her for help, and then tiptoed towards the balcony. Jiang Qing did not hesitate. She picked up the sharp knife used to cut fruits on the table, followed Xing Fengshue's footsteps, and prepared to teach the pervert on the balcony a lesson. On the other side, Xunhuan had received a call from Jiang Qing. But it only rang once and then hung up. He didn't know whether she was really in danger or just happened to meet him by accident. He called Fengshu to confirm, didn't Jiang Qing go to Xing Fengshue's house? Yes, boss. Xunhuan wondered in his heart, could it be that the two best friends had a fight because of a disagreement about dinner? Chapter 37, Punishing the Pervert. Fengshu, let's go and take a look. Xunhuan put on his clothes and set off. On the other side, Jiang Qing and Xing Fengshue had already approached the balcony. They looked at each other and Xing Fengshue mouthed, 3, 2. Jiang Qing nodded, her expression solemn, her heart felt like it was about to jump out. 1. The two girls rushed out quickly, and Xing Fengshue punched the black shadow hard. The man who was beaten screamed in pain. The combined blows hit the man on the back of the head, knocking him unconscious. Damn it, Dr. Jiang, did I kill someone? Xing Fengshue stared at the man lying on the balcony with wide eyes and threw away their baseball bat in her hand. Jiang Qing's face was cold and hard. He can't die, tie him up. Xing Fengshue had just been brave, but now that the man fainted, she felt a little scared and moved cautiously. Jiang Qing quickly tied the man to the chair with a bed sheet. When he came to, he was unable to move. Jiang Qing and Xing Fengshue stood opposite him, one in black pajamas and the other in white. Under the dim moonlight, the two looked as scary as their white twins. You old pervert next door, you climb over the balcony every now and then, aren't you afraid of falling to death? This is the 15th floor. Xing Fengshue asked harshly. The old pervert shook his head again and again. Girls, I was wrong. Please let me go. I won't dare to do it again next time. Let you go. Jiang Qing frowned. Tell me. What are you planning to do by climbing over from next door? Opposite the old pervert was a video recorder with a flashing red dot, recording him. I just wanted to steal some underwear. His rat eyes drooped and he refused to look up. His hands tied behind the chair were struggling secretly. I have lost 5 pieces of underwear this month. You stole them all, right? Xing Fengshue emphasized. He nodded and said nothing. Face the camera and tell us your crimes, and we will let you go, Jiang Qing ordered. The old pervert raised his head, and a hint of evil flashed in his eyes. After much effort, the binding on his wrists finally loosened. Still trying to play tricks. Jiang Qing discovered the problem in time and put a sharp knife to his throat. Do you believe that if I fail, you will never be able to leave this door? Xing Fengshue was stunned by the scene, and exclaimed in his heart that Jiang Qing was too manly, even a little crazy. Her eldest daughter, Qing, was not like this before. Why is it becoming more and more cheerful? The old pervert looked at Jiang Qing's eyes that were flashing with cold light, and felt his throat tighten and his forehead throbbing. This little girl is scary enough. He was really afraid that she might not be able to aim well and hurt him, so he didn't dare to struggle anymore. Put down the knife and spare me. I won't dare to do it again. I won't dare to do it again. At this time, someone knocked on the door. Xing Fengshue had just called the police, and the police arrived. The police officers took away the old pervert and the video recorder, carefully checked the doors and windows on the balcony, and told Xing Fengshue and Jiang Qing to be careful. When the two went back to sleep, it was already past midnight. When Jiang Qing lay down and looked at her cell phone, she remembered that she had just called Xunhuan in a hurry. But there was no response from the other party. It seemed that the sponsor really no longer paid attention to her. However, Jiang Qing was not too disappointed. After all, what happened today was not a big deal for her. When I was in school, my dormitory also encountered perverts like this who stole my underwear. In the end, they all summed up a set of experience. Go to sleep. She reached out to turn off the light. Xing Fengshue beside her had already fallen asleep with even breathing. Downstairs, Xunhuan and Fengshu were standing next to the black Maybach. Seeing that the lights in the room on the 15th floor were dark, Fengshu couldn't help but speak up. Boss, Miss Jiang should have settled the matter, and the police have left with their people. Xunhuan pondered for a moment, his stern face becoming mysterious and distant against the backdrop of the night. He threw away the cigarette in his hand and said calmly, "Let's go." Fengshu nodded and helped him open the car door. At that moment, he didn't know if it was an illusion or something, but he actually saw a trace of loneliness on the free and easygoing boss. His eldest son has indeed been in a lot of trouble in recent days. First, he personally stepped in to break up the Wanxian CP, and then CP fans immediately spread rumors that Xunhuan picked up Yuan Shina at the airport to bring him back to China. Today, the front page of Entertainment News was that Lu Tanlang was interviewed and asked by reporters about the relationship between Xunhuan and Yuan Shina. Lu Tanlang laughed and said that he was trying his best to bring them together. Therefore, various marketing accounts began to spread the news that Wanxian CP had come true, the fairy tale of the wealthy had come true, the two families were discussing the engagement, and good things were coming at the end of the year. When the two of them arrived just now, they shook off two groups of paparazzi who were following them along the way. Fengshu was probably the only one who knew best what his second master had done for Miss Jiang. "Boss, Miss Jiang has been sent out for medical consultations these days." Fengshu glanced at the rearview mirror. Lu Xunhuan stretched out his hand and pinched the bridge of his nose. He seemed very tired and his voice was slightly hoarse. "Who was the blind person who sent her out?" "Director Liu from the hospital." "Liu Shiru." Lu Xunhuan thought of this person, who seemed to be Lu Tanlang's golf partner. "It's him." "I see." Lu Xunhuan had a way to deal with this kind of person, but he quickly asked, "Who did Jiang Qing meet during the outpatient consultation?" Fengshu was stunned. He really didn't expect Lu Xunhuan to ask this suddenly.